getting nervous. No, that's not what Carrie said. Carrie said it was all you. Yeah. Yeah. Even in his email, he said that was Carrie's got this. He said, this morning. I just got the numbers.
That's the people that
Good afternoon. I would like to call the regularly scheduled board meeting to order and ask that you join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. And now would you please rise and join in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now we will have Director Mills read our mission statement.
The Waterloo Schools will set the standard for urban education by ensuring that every student is given the comprehensive support and diverse experiences needed to graduate with a diploma and a plan.
Thank you, Director Mills. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing on the proposed use of saved revenue for an athletic facility infrastructure project. The district intends to use revenue from State of Iowa Secure and Advanced Vision for Education Fund save revenue for the following athletic facility infrastructure project: to construct tennis courts and a soccer practice field. The estimated cost of this athletic facility infrastructure project is $3.1 million. Prior to spending any saved revenue on the construction of an athletic facility infrastructure project that is not physically attached to a student attendance center per Iowa Code Section 423F.36A, the Board of Directors must adopt a resolution setting forth the proposed project and hold a public hearing on the proposed construction. Construction does not include repair or maintenance of an existing athletic facility, but would include actions that amount to reconstruction or remodeling of an existing facility. Now, at 5:05 p.m. on March 10th, can I get a motion to put that on the table, to open the public hearing?
I don't think you need it.
So now the public hearing is now open. So anyone that would like to speak on the public hearing of the proposed use of saved revenue for an athletic facility, can you please come to the microphone, make sure the green light is on, and state your name and address.
Yes, my name is Michael Chapman. I'm at 2761 Deer Road. I would like to actually speak in opposition to the use of the SAVE funds for this athletic facility. Though there are not a lot of plan details involved in it, I think that $3.1 million in our current economic status can probably be used elsewhere. Those funds are great. I know they go out into the future, and we can kind of bank on that being there, although I do believe in the current economic times that we're facing, with a reduction in everything from wages to budgetary expenditures all around. I believe that those funds may dwindle and may not actually be there. Also, I believe that tennis courts are probably not a great use of funds in the Waterloo School District. I know we don't have a very large demand for that, and I believe even if we needed to have that, there's better use of those funds there. As far as a soccer complex goes, we may have more desire and use for that, but again, I believe those funds can either better be saved for the upcoming high school project or other divestitures that may come up. So I wish you would consider those options as well. We all obviously want to be fiscally responsible with our funds. They are tight now. Let's keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at the public hearing?
Thank you, Superintendent, members of the board. My name is Todd Oberdahl, 124 Amity Drive. I too would like to rise in opposition to this proposal. It was only back in November that we had a resolution that was presented to the voters for a high school, and we were told by this body over and over again that taxes will not be raised. We now have in front of us a proposed budget where taxes are being raised at around 40%. Spending is being increased, and we're going to use SAVE funds, which we were told were going to go to the high school. We have already committed to having a long-term obligation of $150 million or thereabouts, and this $3.5 million could be used for retiring that debt or prepaying that debt so we don't have the debt in the first place. again, we were told we only needed a 50% threshold on the vote because taxes were not being raised. Taxes are being raised. And we are now spending on top of what we had coming in. I saw in the news article said that, well, we've got some unforeseen things that happened. Our COVID money went away, so we're in dire straits. Well, there is no guarantee that this SAVE money is going to be around in 10 years. We don't know what the legislature is going to do, but if we're going to be stuck with the debt, and we need to look at being responsible with what we have, what is coming in, and not piling onto the debt with additional spending when we were already committed to $150 million for the most expensive high school in the history of the state of Iowa. I believe that this measure should be put in front of the vote of the people because taxes are being raised. I would just like to say that before I receive a comment saying that I need to get a lawyer, I would like to point out that the school board hasn't done that well in the courts in recent days, and perhaps need to look at some new legal counsel on that. I will address that point later. But please, do not burden this community any more with taxes for things that we need to make decisions on. We need to have one or the other, not everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Obodo.
Charlene Mishler, 319 Center Street in Waterloo. I'm opposed to this measure too. You're talking off-site, meaning it's not at one of the high schools, it's not at one of the junior or middle schools. East High has tennis courts. I go by there every day, even in the summer. I haven't seen anybody out on those tennis courts. We have facilities there, but when you start putting them off-site, that means you're going to be busing students too, to and from these facilities. We have land that this district still owns over on Edward Street, which was the old Longfellow School. If anything, use that property. I don't know exactly what this district's bonded indebtedness is, but I'd really like to know, because the taxpayers are hurting. Nothing's going down in price. Everything's going up, and then our taxes go up. It's a burden.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, is this expected to go on the new purchased land across from Central Middle School?
No,
Okay.
it'll be roughly where the tennis courts are right now. So to the northwest of the WCCX building.
Okay. My name's Andrew Bachman. I live right by there, 2027 Huntington Road. I'll try not to repeat any points that anybody else has said. I think our governor's made it pretty clear on where she stands on private and public schools. Makes it pretty tough to know what the future kind of entails. If there was a way to predict, how many kids, obviously what's happening in enrollment right now won't be impacted for years, but we're about to put a lot of money into this community without knowing how many kids in 10 years will be going to school to it, so it makes it pretty tough. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bachman. Do we have any more speakers on the proposed use of SAVE revenue funds for athletic facility? Seeing no others, can I get a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
And this calls for a roll call vote. Director Mills?
Aye.
Director Knight?
Aye.
Director Schmidt? Director Ewing?
Aye.
Director Matlock?
Aye.
Director Cox? Aye. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. The hearing is now closed. The next item on our agenda is for information only. It is a school presentation from Expo ALC and the Waterloo Career Center. Throughout the 2024-2025 school year, we have been learning about the different things that building leadership teams are doing with their teams in the buildings. They were provided with a list of dates of meetings to provide us with information with all the good things they're doing in their buildings. So tonight we have Expo ALC and the Waterloo Career Center.
Good evening. Thank you, School Board and Superintendent Jared Smith, for allowing us to be here tonight and showcase a few of our awesome students from WCCX who will be sharing with you the classes that they're taking at the WCC. We also have with us again this year our wonderful mascot, Eddie. I was reminded not to ask Eddie questions. He has a hard time answering. He's kind of beak-tied tonight. I just want to share that as an administrator at Expo Alternative Learning Center, housed the majority of the time at WCCX, I have personally found it very beneficial for our kids just to have the flexibility and convenience that they now have this year to walk across to Skywalk or walk a few steps downstairs and take the classes that they're taking, as opposed to where we were last year and dealing with all the busing issues that we had and the headaches with busing and missing busing and our kids not being able to make classes. So it sure has been convenient this year. It's been a blessing for us. And I know these two students, we had three, but one of our students was unable to attend at the last minute. But these two students are going to share with you how they've been blessed with this opportunity and some of the wonderful classes they've been taking, along with what their future plans are. So, Jonas. By the way, both of these students are Lighthouse students at Expo Alternative Learning Center as well. So Jonas, one of our Lighthouse ambassadors, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Jonas. I was here last year for the same board meeting, but this year I wanted to say, like, with the chance that we have with the WCCX building, being that close to it, again, with the busing, I was taking classes last year as well. So I was having a little bit of troubles with the busing, but being there this year, it's an amazing opportunity, you know. We have all of these classes, and then with the kind of glass hallways, we get to see, the other Expo students get to see like what they could get into or possible things that they could use for the future. I've taken construction, and I plan on taking plumbing and small engine repair.
Three construction, that's right.
Yeah, I took 3 semesters of construction, and then I plan on taking plumbing and small engine repair.
Kendra Tucker, a Lighthouse student.
My name is Kendra, and I definitely agree that this year has definitely been easier for the schools, especially since, like, with the busing issues and some students not being able to go because buses were either late or couldn't make it on time. And I've been taking early childhood education. I'm definitely going to continue that. I've only taken one so far, but it's definitely proved that I do want to continue my career in wanting to be a teacher. So,
Mr. Knox, do you have anything you want to add?
One thing I would like to add, other than, you know, some of the challenges that, you know, we faced in the past with students accessing those courses, I would say too, just the, you know, overall feeling that, you know, the staff at the WCC provides, just such a welcoming environment to our students. And, you know, for some of our kids, that's a tough barrier for them. So being on site there to where they can just go over and, you know, take a quick tour and just gain access to that has been amazing. And I know Whitney will kind of mention some of the numbers in terms of our enrollment just with Expo students that have taken advantage of that. But I definitely think a big part of that, you know, like I said, being there on site as well has just opened so many doors for our students who really capitalize on some of those, you know, hands-on, more real world situations. So it's been awesome.
Amy Meehy, Director of Career and Technical Education. I just want to speak on behalf of, right back at what you spoke, Mr. Knox, on the work together. back last February, March, this idea kind of came about. Jeff Foss had kind of put together an adapt pilot idea of alternative education on our campus, starting small. And as we started meeting and developing this idea and this vision, we quickly made the decision, let's just go all in. But if it weren't for the collaboration with the team, working together, brainstorming those challenges as they come about, we wouldn't have had the success that we are seeing. I'm happy to hear you speak about what you enjoy about this. So I just wanted to say that. I know Whitney's going to share some specific data on numbers. So.
Good evening. My name's Whitney Fisher. I'm the Dean of Students at the Career Center. Like everybody up here said, I just want to reiterate how thankful we are that our Expo students are able to access the Career Center so easily. This year, we were pulling some numbers, and last year we had 45 Expo students attend Career Center courses, which was significantly low. So we all know that the goal was to open up access. This year we are currently at 119 students total for first semester and second semester. So that's a 164% increase from last year, which is a testimony to all of the work that everybody in the district has done to get Expo students out there. It's been great to have Expo staff on site with us, providing counseling support, any support that's needed that Expo students get. They have such easy access to with being attached to us. So we're very grateful for that. Some of our most accessed programs through Expo students, advanced manufacturing, ag science has a lot of Expo students in it, which is great. Culinary, cosmetology, plumbing, and construction, and graphic design. So those are highly populated classes by Expo students. So just Expo WCC by the numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Eddie before we sit down? I'm joking. Thank you for giving us the opportunity tonight to highlight some of our students and the amazing things they're doing at the Career Center. And thank you, Amy and Whitney, I drew a blank there for a minute, for just partnering with us and the opportunity to give our kiddos. I mean, it really is a partnership, and it has been so successful this year, and I can't wait to see what's happening in the future for these guys.
So has it impacted the grade performance, the student performance in terms of grades or attendance or dropout? Can you just give us a brief?
Yep, absolutely. You know, with many of the classes, they are based on maintaining a certain grade level. Several of them, they have to be proficient with their ISAP scores, and many of them do look at attendance. If they're concurrent classes and you're not attending, then you can be dropped, and you know that could affect future plans with college and financial aid and transcripts. So we look at those very carefully, and our counselors work with the counselors at the WCC when we see students who are kind of struggling with that, and we pull them and meet with them and so what we can do to help make sure that they're doing what they need to do to be successful in those classes.
So how many students total do you have?
Yeah.
At Expo?
Expo High School, this is based on Mr. Whelan's recent numbers, our Expo by the numbers. And unfortunately, Mr. Whelan couldn't be here. He is sick today, a rare occurrence for that man. But at Expo High School, currently we have 175 students enrolled. So if you heard Whitney say we got about 119 kids of those 175, that's a big share of our kids taking classes, some more than one class a day. When I talked to our counselor before I left the building today, he told me the same number of students. He said, just keep in mind though, while some, like Kendra, might be taking her first class, we have some kids who are taking multiple classes at the Career Center during the day. We have a couple kids I know that we only see for Oasis. The rest of the time they're at WCC,
So for the kids, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
For the kids, can you guys tell me a little bit, Jonas and Kendra, how you feel the atmosphere of Expo, has that maintained, right of you at Expo last year?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you still feel that you have that community even though you're at the WCCX, or Do you feel that there's been a transition there? Just give me your thoughts.
There's definitely been a transition, but I think it's been a really positive one. We've seen less, I want to say less fights than we did last year. We've seen, I haven't had any problems with any of the students or anything. So I feel like being put at the WCCX as well brings like a welcoming environment.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's been less fights, everyone's welcoming and positive, and it's just been a great change that really needed to happen.
Good. I love that. But you still feel like you get to have your own community though too, your Expo community. Yeah. Thank you.
Do you, Whitney, when you had those numbers with 45 students the previous year and 119, do you have an average number of classes or blocks that the Expo students take?
I don't have that available. I can get that for you though.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'd be curious to see how many, if it's multiple blocks or if it's just that one.
Yeah.
That one block, and then what their what programs are the greatest interests for Expo students. And
Yep, I have that. The greatest interests, most of our trades, a lot of Expo students in our trades, beauty and wellness, culinary, graphic design. Those are our top Expo programs.
You got any projection on how much the graduation rate is going to change between this year and last year for Expo?
No. I'm sure if Mr. Whelan was here, he would have that information for you. No, I think our graduation this year is going to be even bigger than last year. I really do. And considering, I'm not just talking, when I talk about graduation, not just about the students who are housed at the WCCX, our students who are also graduating through the various programs that we offer via virtual or FLC or Grad Connect. I think we have more students this year that will be walking the stage than we have in the past. So that in itself is a celebration. And we're looking forward to graduation this year. It's going to be awesome, just like it always has been. Might have a little different twist to it this year because
it'll be air conditioned.
We don't know. We don't know.
You don't know where you're going to do it yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Yeah, still working on all the details for that. Yeah.
I'm excited.
so y'all
It will be a blast, just like always. Yeah.
y'all read our minds.
That building is hot.
So Jonas or Kendra, are you involved in the actual trades in any way? Have you worked for somebody part-time or?
So I have not personally worked part-time in any construction, but it has been a big interest of mine for a couple of years now, actually. I had my dad and my stepdad growing up. They both were in those things. My stepdad was a concrete layer, and then my dad, he made doors. So it was more the construction trade, but I've always found interest in that. But I'm open to widening my spectrum for more trades like that.
Thank you.
And no, I have not taken any part-time jobs or anything like that, but I'm the oldest of 3 other kids, and I love helping them. And me and my sisters, when we were younger, we used to play school nonstop. So I kind of knew that I wanted to be a teacher at a very young age, and this is actually giving me a chance to follow through with it.
Thank you.
We are super proud of you guys. We're really glad that the move out there is something that worked for you.
Any more questions, comments?
Can't get this to work.
Before Henry goes, I'm not sure if we've had you in front of us here since you got your award. You mentioned the Lighthouse team. Henry Shepard, Mr. Shepard, was named the Leader Valley Administrator of the Year. So let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. But I tell everybody that I got the award, but the award is really, everybody got that award. I might be the spokesperson or the administrator behind it or in front of it, but It's these guys. They're doing all the work. It's everybody I work with. It's all the Lighthouse students, all the Lighthouse staff. So it's a shared award. I just have it at my house.
Where's Emily? See, you want to get a picture, Emily? Might be a little crowded in the gallery. Are there any more questions or comments? Thank you, Expo and WCC. Great job.
That was.
Yeah, we have Journalist of the Year taking the pictures, y'all, like for the state of Iowa. Yeah.
Thank you. One. They combine them. The next item on our agenda is also a board celebration for information only. It's the First Tech Challenge and First Robotics Competition. And I saw Dick Herbin and Aaron Sale here. Waterloo High School students from East and West participate in 2 FIRST robotics programs, and Aaron and Dick always do a better job of explaining this to us, than I could. So I'll hand the microphone over to them with this large group of students.
So I will only talk for about 2 seconds, then I think these guys will do an even better job of sharing all the stuff that they've been doing. I'm really here to give a big thanks to our coaches and our mentors, because they will never, you'll never hear I did this or anything. They're building up their students, the countless hours, energy that they all put in, whether it's a coach or a mentor, is phenomenal. So big thanks to them, because all that you're going to see from these guys and hear from these guys is because of the coaches and the mentors that we have.
All right, so this is our yearly visit. My name's Dick Herban. You recognize me. The hat is because I'm known throughout the state of Iowa for this hat with my robotics team. And these are really the kids that do all the work. I pay some bills and keep track of the money that we want to thank the school board for supporting us. I'm going to get off here quick. Just what we're going to have is these students are just going to announce their name, because we want to get out in the hallway to demonstrate the robots. But 2 quick things. Both our teams, Sieve Electrons and H2O Lubots, made it to the state championship this year. We didn't do so great there, but we do have some great robots. We have some great kids. We tabulate our hours. Since September of this year, we put in between 3,500 and 4,000 hours building these robots. We're not done. We have the FRC Regional in a month. We normally bring that robot, but we're way behind. We brought a part of it, and we'll show you that out in the hallway. We're just going to have these kids say their name, and then we're going to go back out to there. So as you say your name, walk out there, and we're going to have a demo in a couple minutes.
Say your name, grade, and school, please.
Hi, I'm Noura Nasri. I'm a senior at West High. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dina Nasri, and I'm a sophomore at West High.
Hi, I'm Orton, and I'm a senior at West High.
Hi, I'm Maria, and I'm a senior at East.
Hi, I'm Juan. I'm a sophomore, and I go to West High.
Hi, my name's Lucy Galloway, and I'm a senior at West High.
My name's Michael Sonnenberg, and I'm a sophomore at West.
My name's Nico Merson, and I'm a sophomore at West High School.
Shedrick Smith. I'm a junior at East.
Hi, I'm Cameron Joyce, and I'm a junior at East.
Hi, I'm Zach Stevenson, and I'm a junior at West.
Hi, I'm Caden Wiggins, and I'm a sophomore at West.
So if you want to proceed out to the hallway now, we'll show you some of our...
So let's give some directions first. I'm looking at my time. 7 minutes. 7 minutes max. All right, so we're gonna rush out. So we're gonna take a brief recess. We'll be back in the gallery in a second. So we're gonna get a photo out. We do it quick, right?
Those were cool. Those were cooler than last year's robots, I thought.
What is it?
Welcome back. Thank you for your patience as we stepped in the hall and see some of the wonderful things our students are doing. The next item on our agenda is for information only. It is a donation, It is a donation from the R.J. McElroy Trust. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education accepts with gratitude this donation in the amount of $200,000 from the R.J. McElroy Trust in support of the Waterloo Schools Life Labs program.
So moved.
Second.
Pursuant to Board Policy 701.9, donations over $2,500 must be approved by the Board of Education. Waterloo Schools would like to recognize and thank the R.J. McElroy Trust for their generous donation of $200,000 in support of Waterloo Life Labs. And Dr. Jared Smith will give a little bit more information on this donation.
Yeah, so Life Labs is one of our signature programs here in the Waterloo Schools. It's been going on for a number of years, been highly successful. Each year we ask for feedback from students and staff of the different programs that we offer. And Life Labs always comes back with very high marks from both students and staff in terms of the effect it has on our students. Basically, the goal behind it is that each of our grade levels has some sort of experience, whether it's in the Cedar Valley or somewhere across the state or even outside the state. This year, we did make a slight adjustment to some of our programs based on some funding, but McElroy has been an amazing partner for us on this program, and we cannot really pull this off without their contribution. And $200,000 this year, and then we've got one more donation next year of $200,000. So we're excited to see that, and we'll talk about that a little bit later here this evening. But definitely, we know the positive effects and impact that Life Labs has had. And we're just so thankful. I know Megan couldn't be here tonight, Megan McKenzie, who's leads that organization and their trustees, but we're just super thankful for the collaboration with McElroy and for all that they do for our students and the Life Lab programs.
Anybody else have any comments? Yep, R.J. McElroy has been a trusted partner that has poured into our district over the years, so we do want to thank them again for this generous donation, helping our school's Waterloo Life Labs program. With that being said, all those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. Again, we want to thank the R.J. McElroy Trust for this generous donation. The next item on our agenda is the graduation dates for the Waterloo Community School High School's class of 2026. And this is for information only. So graduation dates for each respective class of 2026 are as follows. East High School will be at the McLeod Center on UNI's campus on Tuesday, May 26, 2026 at 6 p.m. Expo Alternative Learning Center tentatively will be at Expo on Wednesday, May 27th, 2026 at 6 p.m. And West High School will be at the McLeod Center on the campus of University of Northern Iowa on Thursday, May 28th, 2026 at 6 p.m. I know we had a gentleman speak to the board at last board meeting in hopes that we can get these dates out a little bit sooner so people can prepare for vacations and family coming in town. So that's noted. But for now, 2026 East High School will be May 26, 2026 at 6 p.m. Expo Alternative Learning Center, Wednesday, May 27th, 2026. And West High School at the McLeod Center on UNI's campus on Thursday, May 28th at 6 p.m. And that was for information only. The next item on our agenda is information from individuals and delegations. This is the opportunity where those who wish to address the school board may do so. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Mrs. Arndorfer will hold up a yellow card when you have 30 seconds remaining and a red card when your time has expired. At that time, I will ask you to conclude your public remarks. Please also keep your comments respectful and constructive. We're all here with the goal of trying to help our students. Please also avoid criticizing the job performance of employees of the school district. Personnel matters are confidential and must be handled through proper channels and not in a public forum. Finally, we provide this as an opportunity for public comments, but it is generally not a back and forth conversation. We'll try to answer questions before or after the meeting, but we must proceed with our agenda items as they're printed. With that being said, I invite anyone who wishes to address the board to please come forward, make sure the green light is on, and start by stating your name and home address.
Latanya Graves, 607 East Donald Street, Waterloo. Good evening. So, I received numerous emails and calls in regards to our district being the only district that pulled out of the read-in. And so, my question is, in the future, when the authors are minorities, is that going to happen again? And I know it was because of something that came from the Department of Ed and DEI. And in my heart, God created us all equal. And that's what I truly believe. And it was at a period in time in history where man caused the divide because of hatred and racism in their heart. And so DEI, this is a diverse board, diversity. This is a diverse crowd here, diversity. Equity means equal. Inclusion means not leaving anyone out. So I'm just confused when we talk about DEI and we're trying to dismantle diversity, equity, inclusion. And I don't understand. I know you don't have the power to change it, and it's coming from the government, the top officials. However, if we get rid of diversity and equity and inclusion, we will no longer have a voice. We will no longer have a voice. Crowds like this will not be able to come together. And that's what we're headed to. And I know you can't answer me, but I'm just speaking how I feel. And like I said, God created us all equal. Man caused that divide because of hatred and racism. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Graves.
Sorry.
You still got time.
We took a group of 8th graders today on an awesome tour of Smoky Row and the Triangle. And these students wanted to know how blacks actually came to Waterloo, Iowa. And so we gave them the tour, we fed them lunch, and I mean, they were totally amazed with all the information that we provided for them, but it was stuff that they wanted to know. They wanted to know how blacks came to Waterloo, Iowa. And as a child, I used to ask my mother that. We're from Paducah, Kentucky, and I would say, how did we come to Waterloo? But the kids wanted to know, and so the tour was awesome. And again, we toured, we stopped at the teen center, and then they saw the railroad where blacks came in on. We took them to the museum on East 4th Street. They stopped at KBBG's new location and the old location, Payne Church, the Jesse Cosby Center. That was the first African-American church. Bakari, that used to be a grocery store, and then 2 taverns, and then the African-American African Palace, and then the Martin Luther King Center, then the Martin Luther King Center of Hawkeye Community College, now Bakari and Social Action Inc. Thank you.
You knew I was coming for you. About that little time you stepped away kind of got you off track.
But the kids wanted wanted to know.
Nice.
About how many students
it.
were able to take the tour?
It was over, we had 4 buses.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think 120.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kristen Stanford, and I live at 1708 Partridge Lane. I'm here to thank you all, to the district administration and our school board members for their support and time as you have taken long, difficult look at the staff and programming of the district. I don't envy this work, and it has to be done to propose budget cuts around $10 million. I am hopeful, though, knowing that all of you have the best interest of our students in mind when planning for the future of our district. As I watch and listen to school boards throughout the state of Iowa grapple with budget cuts, I am confident that we have a great team here in Waterloo making those suggestions. I've had friends and neighbors ask me, how did we get here and how can they help? Our state legislature has underfunded our public schools 9 out of the last 14 years, with school supplemental aid not keeping pace with inflation. Currently, this legislative session, they are negotiating between a 2% and a 2.25% increase between the Iowa House and Senate, which will once again result in cuts, as our current inflation rate is 3%. At the same time, there is a proposal in the Iowa Senate to increase the salary of our state legislators by 80% and our governor by 77%. Sadly, it seems that the representatives and leaderships in Des Moines do not have the best interest of our public schools and our children at heart. As we see more dollars being funneled toward private school vouchers and charter schools, we do our best to educate our students and provide opportunities with less funding. The future of our public schools and of our community depends on our collective voices speaking up and holding our representatives and senators accountable. I encourage everyone here to email or call their legislators to ask for adequate funding for our public schools. Our voices and our votes matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stanford. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board?
Hello, my name is Belinda Creighton Smith. My address is 416 Oliver Street. And I'm here echoing the sentiments of the woman that spoke before me. And she called us to hold our legislators accountable. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm here standing before you to hold you accountable, that you would consider our children first before the cuts are made. So if it means trimming things from the top, trimming things from the very top, the governor's assuming a 70% increase. Let's not do that here in our city with the superintendent and then all of the others below. Let's freeze that and try to use that extra money to provide the teachers, the paras, the BHIS workers, the other staff and faculty that our children desperately need. They cannot afford to have fewer teachers and support staff in the buildings. They need more, not less.
Thank you, Pastor.
Hi, Todd Oberdahl, 124 Amity Drive. Over the last several years, I've made an avocation to attempt to hold leaders accountable and responsible, and I am always pleased to hear people participating in the process, and that we can sometimes we can disagree, but still be charitable and break bread with one another. And I think that's the beautiful thing about this country, and it's a beautiful thing when the process is run with honesty and integrity. I wish to comment about the recent case that came down from the Iowa Supreme Court here in regards to the insurance claim over at Lowell. A little history, back in 2019, we had a heavy snowfall, had the building collapsed partially. The school district made a claim with the insurance company asking for full reconstruction costs of the building. The insurance company denied that, giving $2 million on a $19 million claim. The school district filed suit, and in January of, it's in January of 2023, the summary judgment came down not in the favor of the school district. They said that the insurance company was correct in accordance with law. There was an appeal that was made on that. I've read the briefings, I've read the decisions on this, and the appeal was basically a reiteration of the original case, which failed with a summary judgment. But the Supreme Court did agree to hear it, and the Supreme Court heard it and heard the reiteration of the points that were made, and very resoundingly denied the school board's claim. So it was pretty black and white, and all the justices that weighed in on the opinion ruled in favor of the insurance company. There was one that didn't participate. So there wasn't even a dissenting opinion on this. Once it got to the Supreme Court, this just came down 3 days ago. I went back and looked, and I saw that the appeal to the Supreme Court was made in September of 2023. It was in November of 2023 that the first public presentation, trial balloon floating about building the high school was made. And again, we were told for months and months and a year plus that there would be no increases in taxes. Yet there was a $17 million liability that was hanging out there that was presumably being classified as an asset, as an account payable of one form or another, in spite of the fact that there's a summary judgment against it. It was money that was not there. This $17 million shortfall is exactly what SAVE funds are for, to rebuild schools when bad things happen and when the insurance doesn't cover it. And it was a point that was made over and over in these chambers and elsewhere, that if we're putting all this money towards the high school, where is the money going to come from for the maintenance? And we were assured that there wasn't going to be any tax increases. Yet we're seeing tax increases, we're seeing spending increases that are happening in the wake of this. And I would just like to make a note that the bond issue was not approved by a 60% majority, which means it fails if there are tax increases. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oberdahl. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board?
Michael Chapman, 2761 Deer Road. My comments tonight also are regarding the high school project. I brought in with me, I don't know if anyone's seen yet, this is the documentation for the high school project. It includes over 1,000 pages of drawings and almost twice that many in specifications. This school board has set a bid date of April 3rd. These drawings were released on March 6th in the late afternoon. For the electronic copy, it was slightly earlier, but still in the afternoon. That gives us just about 29 days to have the high school, to have the general and prime contractors of this high school review this, get it to their subcontractors, get it to their material providers, and get back quotes that are going to be good. In this time where we're trying to cut money, we're trying to save money, having such a short time frame to review plans, to review the specifications, to find the best deals out there possible, to find the best suppliers, to find the best subcontractors out there, be they local or out of town. It is imperative that we take the appropriate amount of time to do that. The pre-bid meeting, which is generally after a prime contractor, subcontractors, and so forth have had a chance to review these drawings, is tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon. That gives us less than 3 full days to review thousands and thousands of pages of documentation. Now, our subcontractors in the specific industries, they have a much smaller purview to look at, but your main ones, your mechanical contractor, your electrical contractor, your structural contractor, they have hundreds and hundreds of pages themselves to review. I would implore this school board to review bid times, bid dates, and perhaps extend that out. My personal recommendation would be at least an additional 15 days, if not an additional 30 days. I know we want to get started on construction, but getting started on construction without fully vesting a good plan review just means the expenses are going to go up. When a contractor doesn't have a subcontractor bid or a supplier bid, they just estimate it. Nobody estimates low. They always estimate high. It's going to cost us more money than we really need. My second point, quickly, is that we still have not seen any targeted local or targeted small business goals added into any of the RFPs. None of that information exists. They haven't been put out. Nobody reviewing any of this at Envision, Modus Engineering, the plan rooms, none of that exists. And I implore you to make sure that does happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Seeing none, can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
Oh, yeah, no, that's information. Nope, just information. I do. This is new technology I'm trying to deal with. That brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is our consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda consists of 6 items. Item 1, approval of the minutes of the February 24th, 2025 regularly scheduled board meeting. Item 2, personnel appointments and adjustments. Item 3, bills due and payable and bills paid between board meetings. Item 4, updated 28E agreement with Waterloo Career Center and the 28E agreements. Item 5, memorandum of agreement, the AFJROTC at West High School. And item 6, revised board meeting dates and times. Are there any items that board members want to see removed?
4 and 6, please.
For the updated 28E agreements and the revised board meeting dates and times?
Yes.
Are there any others? Seeing none, can I get a motion to put items 1, approval of minutes of the February 24th, 2025 regularly board meeting. Item 2, personnel appointments and adjustments. Item 3, bills due and payable and bills paid between board meetings. And item 5, memorandum of agreement from the AFJROTC at West High School on the table.
So moved. You.
Second.
Mills. All those in favor of approving those, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That brings us to item 4. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve the 28E agreements between the Waterloo Schools, Waterloo Career Center, and the following school districts for WCC programming as presented: Cedar Falls, Dyke New Hartford, Dunkerton, Gladbrook Rhinebeck, Grundy Center, Hudson, Jamesville, Jessup, and Union.
So moved.
Second.
Jesse. And I think Stacy pulled this.
Yeah, so just first, I just wanted to make sure that we touch on how many different school districts utilize our career center, and how many that building this career center has been so great for Waterloo, but it's also benefited the so many small districts around us that can't afford to offer these. But I just had one question then. For the Cedar Falls one, what is the CAPS, the Center for Advanced Professional Studies, that we send kids there for?
CAPS program.
What is CAPS?
Yep. Jeff, we're going to request, or Amy, because I'm sure we have a couple of questions on this.
And just
either
that-
one
if
or
that's-
both.
Yeah.
We can tag team it.
If it's something that we can offer here or no?
I think the first question is how many districts utilize? Or you-
Well, no, I was just saying how awesome it is, how many districts do, because I
Okay.
mean, that was what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 different small districts benefit from the Career Center. But what is CAPS and why do we not offer it?
CAPS is the comparative program for the Cedar Falls schools. It is more an experiential.
I don't know what that means.
So we have the Career Center,
Right.
which students come to the Career Center, take their courses, whether it's concurrent or non-concurrent, earn credits and IRCs, industry recognized credentials, things like that. CAPS is more experiential, where students in that program actually go out to businesses and work with the business partners on a specific project type of for each semester. So each semester it's a different project for different businesses that they work with the Cedar Falls schools with in, I think, like 6 different areas.
Is that something that we just can't offer, or we just don't because we already have the Career Center, or?
Yeah, so our agreement with Cedar Falls, going back to 2016, is instead of duplication of programming, we have the Career Center, they have CAPS, is that we would just have an agreement that we would have the ability to send students both ways.
Okay. And then how many kids do we get coming in from all these different districts? Like, I know you don't have, like, ballpark.
I'm gonna turn that over to Amy.
It's usually somewhere in between 130 and 140 students. It's increased.
Like per
in time.
semester or per
Yep,
year?
Yep, per semester. It's about 25% to 30 of our population.
That's very cool. Thank you.
Any more questions before they sneak off?
Yeah, we got another trip on her.
All right, seeing none. All those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. That brings us to item 6, the revised board meeting dates and times. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education hold their regularly scheduled meetings as listed, amending the start time of the March 24th, 2025 meeting to 5:30 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
So, okay, my question with this is, and I know this was kind of last year too, with so much going on, will we actually run a summer schedule, or do you think that we are going to need those extra times to meet? Like, is meeting once a month going to be enough with everything that we have on our plates right now? Like, do we have to go down to just one a month?
I think we still have them on. We've never taken them off the schedule. So if we need to add them back, currently it says no meeting, but they're regularly scheduled every second and fourth Monday. If we need, because there's been times where we have had 2
right
in the month of June and the month of July. But if we don't need to, if there's information that we can hold off until those next board meetings, we'll do so. But if we need to add, instead of adding a special board meeting, we would just
use our regular
use
one.
the regularly scheduled board meeting.
And just so,
time.
and so the public knows too, like, we don't go on vacation from the board during the summer. Like, we do our workshops and stuff during that time too. So
Yeah. So we'll be available if need be to hold those meetings. Which what Stacy's referring to, normally in the months of June and July, we only have one scheduled. We only have one board meeting for the summer months. So if need be, we'll definitely have 2. Another note on this is that the March 24th meeting will start at 5:30 p.m. instead of 5 p.m. for the regularly scheduled board meeting.
And let me just add to that as well. So 5 o'clock p.m. will actually be the public hearing portion, which will be noticed as a special board meeting, and then the regularly scheduled board meeting will be at 5:30 p.m. or as soon as that public hearing is complete.
Thank you.
is there a reason that one had to be scheduled differently? Because we do public hearings during meetings all the time.
Yeah, in the last couple of years, the laws changed where there's now 2 public hearings required when it comes to approving the property taxes and the certified budget. So we're just following.
Okay.
And this first public hearing has to be its own separate meeting per code. So that's the reason for the modification.
Okay, thank you guys.
Any more questions on that? So all those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. This brings us to our next item, item 12. The WCC travel to Tampa, Florida. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve travel for WCC cyber students from July 19th through the 25th, 2025 to the University of South Florida for CyberCon Leadership Development Conference in Tampa, Florida. I see Kyle is making his way right on cue.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so it's me again. And so this will be an opportunity for students that are involved in the Cyber Club and have been involved in some of the competitions that we've done. Most recently, we were at the Iowa State International CDC the last weekend of February. Students placed 4th. They were the highest high school team. There was 31 teams, 26 were college teams, and 5 high school teams. 17 of the 26 were from Europe, the college teams, and then the teams that got 1st and 2nd were Iowa State grad students, which I claim is unfair to have them in the competition, but but it was good for our it's good for our students to see that higher level of competition and to kind of experience the different attacks that happen in real time. At that competition, they had to defend a 3D manufacturing facility, and they had to defend it from getting from the I don't know what they are for sure, but the spins, the plastic, so it didn't get too hot and it didn't burn down, and so they had to defend it from a cyber attack. And so this opportunity would be again in Florida. It's being paid with a grant, and then there's a second grant that's in process right now from Iowa STEM. And so that would allow the number of students to maybe increase a little bit. But I think I put the max number of students in there. So actually that number, if we don't get that grant, that number may be a little bit lower than the number that's in there. So question, this conference is, it's in its 10th year, and it's one of the best cyber professors in America, Dr. Nathan Fisk. And so he's excited. And so there will be about 100 high school students. He caps it at 100. When he opened it, I had him reserve us spots, and he was willing to do that. And so I didn't want to jump, get the cart before the horse. And so, but he is holding spots for us. And so, but pretty much it's full already after about 2 weeks of being open. So.
Is this strictly academic, or is there interaction with potential employers?
This will be, a lot of the sessions are being led by, well, I say a lot. About half of the sessions are being led by employers. So I know like Cisco is deeply involved in this, and they'll be there. And so there will be interactions with employers, and then also with the military also will be involved, along with the University of South Florida and their staff and Dr. Fisk.
So what's the market for cybersecurity?
The market for cybersecurity is still it's a huge need. In Black Hawk County, I think when I looked last week, there was 266 cyber jobs, and I think about 44 of them were open at that time. So they update those numbers about every month. And so the state of Iowa has close to about 15,000 cybersecurity jobs, and it's a little bit higher percentage-wise. About 40% of those are open. Our students that all went to college, and after their first year, they're starting to get internships, and they're starting to get internships competing against juniors and seniors and getting those internships. And a lot of it is from experiences like this, because in the cyber world, in the IT world, a lot of times employers want experience, 3 years experience. And so
graduating from college students don't have that. And so, but they count the competitions, especially the Iowa State competitions, because the ones in Iowa and the surrounding area know about those and know how intense they are. And so they count those as experience. And so that really kind of being able to participate in those really gives the students a leg up when they're going out and looking at internships and potential jobs when they graduate.
It seems like there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
How did you decide like which kids are going? Did kids sign up to do this, or?
It'll be the ones that are the most active, and
Okay.
truly it's going to be the ones that are going to want to go. And so it really kind of sifts itself out for the most part. And so at that part, I don't think will be much of a problem. It'll be for sure the 7 kids that participated on the team at Iowa State in February. For sure, they'll be part of it.
Okay.
If they want to, they'll have
Right.
first opportunity. There's a high school Iowa State cyber defense competition in April, the end of April. It's very much similar to the one that the students just did, but it's not as hard. And so, so the students that participate in that will also have first dibs, I guess.
How many kids do you have that are currently? This is part of your cyber defense club, right?
Right.
Okay. How many kids are in it right now?
Rotation wise, there'll be anywheres we meet Tuesday night 6 to 8, so there'll be anywheres from 6 to 10 on a Tuesday night. But of that, there's probably about 25 different kids. There's 2 or 3 that are the same ones that come all the time, but then
Yeah.
the others kind of, float in, float out, and they have, different activities going on and different things. And so,
This is a very cool opportunity.
yeah.
Thanks for finding it.
Anything else?
Oh, yes, Harrison, I asked him to be here at 6, and then when it was going long, I said, oh, wait, till 6:30, so Harrison made it. So Harrison's been active for the last couple of years, so go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell them your school and
Harrison Ritter, sophomore at West. This is my second year at the WCC with Mr. Cooler's class.
So how often do you go to the club stuff?
It's every Tuesday, 6 to 8, and then.
So do you go regularly?
Yeah, and then, like once a month we do like a competition, or like every other month.
What's your favorite part about Cybersecurity Club?
A lot of job opportunity and like being able to. It's gonna be a huge thing in the next couple of years.
And he didn't even hear your spiel. Right on cue, huh?
One of the things that we've started doing in addition to the club is there's 3 55 and over retirement centers, and so once a month we'll go there and we'll just do an IT help desk, and so students sometimes will get more students at that than at the club on Tuesdays, but students really have an interest in that too, and community service, and that they're finding, especially right now, that helps with scholarships and college applications and just kind of, all the internships and opportunities. Currently have 4 high school seniors that are out in the community working at different places, and so on site. So, but those are pretty, exciting opportunities for students.
Always. Nice.
That's impressive. Thank you.
Any more questions, comments? So all those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. Thanks, Kyle, for all your work. And
thank you.
Glad you made it, Harrison. The next item on our agenda is a resolution supporting the proposed use of SAVE revenue for an athletic facility infrastructure project. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve the resolution supporting the proposed use of SAVE revenue for an athletic facility infrastructure project as presented.
So moved.
Second.
And Zach in here, right? You wanna? Okay. So Dr. Smith will give a little bit more information on this, and then we'll.
Yeah, this has been off our radar a little bit with everything going on, but just remember that we talked a lot this summer in terms of what steps need to happen. There's been new legislation that has been around using SAVE for athletic facilities. And so I don't know who all was part of that meeting over the summer, but we had Beth Grobe from Ehlers came and met with us and really talked us through what it looks like if you're going to use SAVE funds for any sort of what you could consider to be athletic facilities. And so we had a really long conversation about whether or not our soccer field and tennis courts constitute athletic facilities or if they're part of the instructional, like the overall instructional program. So what I did, and it's been, like I said, it's been off our radars a little bit, so I did forward this email to you. It was back in October, but Josh Johnson, who is sitting second row there, director of secondary, he did a little bit of research for us, and he went and talked to all kinds of teachers, principals, and some of the music teachers in terms of what is and the coaches too, help us balance how much time on these fields and courts is going to be instructional time versus how much time is going to be actual athletic competition time. And again, in that email that we vetted, we sent that to Beth, who and she worked with Iowa School Board Association. Our hours estimated for the amount of time, instructional time versus athletic time on the courts and the fields was about 3-to-1 instructional time versus athletic time. There's a lot of use that we're excited about for the soccer field and the tennis courts as it pertains to like marching band, as it pertains to PE classes, as it pertains to JROTC. There's a number of instructional opportunities that after speaking to our teachers and our principals, that those are the things that would be used for those areas. Like I said, the soccer field and the tennis court. So again, this has been off our radar a little bit, but that was a step we had to take, was to make sure that we were getting the blessing, I guess you could say, from legal counsel that we would be safe to use those funds for these two pieces of the athletics. Notice how the question was great from the community member who came up, and he asked if it was anything to do with any of the proposed or possible athletic facilities across the street. It's not. That would be considered too far away from campus to be a part of the SAVE project. And quite honestly, we wouldn't use it as much for any of our instructional needs. So again, just to be clear, the two spaces, the soccer fields, the tennis courts, we did get legal guidance. It was very clear that we made a great case for those areas being instructional, which allows us to use SAVE funds for those pieces.
And one step backward, these are going to be at the new high school on the central campus, because I think there might be some confusion about when you're saying off-site that's what these are being proposed for as part of the new high school.
So it would be the northwest. The tennis courts will be similar to where they are now. Mm-hmm. So to the north of the WCCX, and the turf field utilized for band and soccer and other uses as well will be a little bit further northwest. So there'll be another field there, but they will be multifaceted. It'll be utilized for instruction and athletic programming as well. And I know the comment earlier about the usage, the lack of usage, some of the facilities that we currently have, either I think East was mentioned and West High has some as well. The goal and the hope is that students will participate and utilize these facilities. We know during the school day, during the school instructional time, that will be implemented, but also getting students to want to participate, utilizing these new facilities, participate in these athletic events, and generating interest for our athletic teams as well.
Is this money part of the money that we already did the bond for. This isn't
Yes.
anything extra
This
or
is-
new.
no, this
This
is
was
not
just getting
extra.
approval.
Correct.
Let me clarify. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're not approving this tonight. What we're doing is setting the stage to approve it if the bids for those drawings come back favorable. But it's an alternative bid
Okay.
for the tennis courts and the soccer field because, as Jared mentioned, the state rules are, if you're gonna use that, you need a separate hearing for those. So this puts us in a position to, when we get the bids in, this is bid as an alternative. We can take it or not take it. And that will depend on the base bid, quite frankly. So this is not a done deal at all. It just puts us in a position that if everything is favorable, we are authorized to go ahead and include this as part of the total high school project. But that won't be made until we receive the bids and determine which of a number of alternatives we feel we can afford and which ones we can't. So,
These aren't the only, these are not the only things that are considered alternatives as part of the package, correct?
right.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's broken down so we can, like I say, if the numbers come in as we expect, we're hoping we can afford the entire package, but if we can't, we don't want to burden the base bid. So we can pick and choose as the items we think are the most important.
Got it. Okay.
But it's part of that overall package for the high school.
So the numbers that Josh ran after talking to coaches, after talking to teachers, was that we anticipate marching band. So we feel like this is an important part of the project, clearly, because if you look at how it's going to be used instructionally, it's really a big piece of what we want to do. So, like Lyle said, it's part of the alternate, but hope it's high on our list of alternates, if that makes sense. Marching band, they estimate they would use that field turf for 120 hours plus a year. PE would use the tennis courts and the field turf between 500 hours per year. And then strength conditioning estimates that they would need it for about 300 hours per year.
Wait, what part is strength and conditioning using?
Well, it says, I'm just reading what it says. I'm in the document that Josh passed along. I'm not exactly sure if that would be the other. Strength conditioning is split up between turf field and tennis courts, and it lists those. I'm not exactly sure what the strength
I
conditioning.
mean, they can run relays and they can do all kinds of terrible, awful, terrible things that I don't want to do on those fields.
Flipping tires.
Don't want to do. How do you really feel about that? I feel pretty strongly about that.
I guess my point being is that it's a pretty big piece of our instructional program that we're offering. So it was pretty eye-opening, the numbers that we came up with.
Well, I think it's important to note that, when we say strength and conditioning, we're not talking about after-school weightlifting. It's the actual PE course here. So strength and conditioning is a course. Same thing with marching band. Marching band is a course. Kids get a grade for that. If you're in band, 10th grade for 12th grade, you have to participate in marching band. It is a separate credit as well. So it truly is instructional, not just extracurricular. So,
Yes.
And the cost will be determined in the bids. This is an estimated cost. Whatever they bid, we end up with bids. It'll be itemized out as a actual cost for this.
Okay.
and it'll reduce wear and tear on the competition field as well, the main field too. So by having an alternate field.
Now, there is a resolution that needs to be considered, and if you haven't noticed, I've been a little under the weather for way too long. So our board secretary, Pam Arndorfer, will be gracious enough to read that for us.
Okay, so the resolution states, the resolution supporting the proposed use of saved revenue for an athletic facility infrastructure project. Whereas the school district receives revenue from the State of Iowa Secure and Advanced Vision for Education Fund, save revenue, pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 423F.2, and whereas pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 423F, and an election duly held in accordance therewith on March 3rd, 2020, the Board of Directors is currently entitled to spend save revenue for school infrastructure purposes, including the construction of an athletic facility infrastructure project. And whereas the Board of Directors has considered potential uses of the district's save revenue, including use for secure entries for the district's attendance centers, and has determined that it is necessary and advisable for the district to use save revenue for the following athletic facility infrastructure project that is not physically attached to a student attendance center: to construct tennis courts and a soccer field or practice field. And whereas the Board of Directors has complied with the provisions of Iowa Code Chapter 423F.3, 6A, by adopting a resolution setting forth the proposal for the athletic facility infrastructure project and holding a public hearing on the proposed construction of the athletic facility. Now, therefore, it is resolved, number one, the Board of Directors hereby supports the proposed use of save revenue for the following athletic facility infrastructure project: to construct tennis courts and a soccer/practice field. The estimated cost of the construction of this facility infrastructure project is $3.1 million. Number two, eligible electors of the school district have the right to file with the board secretary a petition pursuant to Iowa Code Chapter 423F.4, Section 2, Section B, on or before close of business on March 24, 2025, for an election on the proposed use of save revenue. The petition must be signed by eligible electors equal in number to not less than 100 or 30% of those voting at the last preceding election of school officials under Iowa Code 277.1, whichever is greater. Number three, in the event a petition containing the required number of valid signatures is filed with the Secretary of the Board on or before close of business on March 24, 2025, the President shall call a meeting of the Board to consider rescinding this resolution supporting the proposed use of save revenue, or directing that the question of the proposed use of save revenue be submitted to the qualified electors of the school district. If the board determines to submit the question to the electors, the proposition to be submitted shall be as follows. Shall the Board of Directors of the Waterloo Community School District in the County of Black Hawk, State of Iowa, be authorized to use revenue from the State of Iowa Secure and Advanced Vision for Education Fund to construct tennis courts and a soccer/practice field, with the estimated cost of construction being $3.1 million.
Thank you, Ms. Arndorfer. So any questions, comments on that board? So this requires a roll call vote. So I'll start to my right in hopes that Director Mills will be back. Director Cox? This requires a roll call vote. So, Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Matlock?
Yes.
Director Ewing?
Aye.
Director Schmidt?
Yes.
Director Knight?
Aye.
Director Mills?
Yes.
Chair votes aye, motion carried. That's it. Thank you. The next item on our agenda, item 14, is a 3-year budget plan. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve the proposed budget adjustments as presented.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Jesse. Okay. So I believe that Dr. Smith has a brief presentation and will give us more information on the 3-year budget plan. Oh, we're already up and ready.
So
If you're in the gallery, I believe that back screen is on as well. Good? All right.
So Astor said brief. We'll see what we can, might be a little bit longer than that, but thanks everybody for coming tonight. Thanks school board for all that you do. We mentioned that earlier. This is this is gonna be a difficult presentation here. We've been working really hard to get this prepared, and we are my approach is gonna be this. I'm gonna go through this presentation. Board members, I know you'll have questions. I've had a chance to meet with you a little bit ahead of time, but certainly want to answer your questions. And we've got an audience here. I see a couple hundred people are watching at home too, so I want to make sure that we answer their questions as best we can. But my plan is to go through this relatively thoroughly, so it might take a little bit longer. But I want to make sure that my approach is always to try to do the best to explain why we're doing things, how we're doing things as transparently as possible. So I'm going to take you through, it's about 20-ish slides. It's going to start off with some information, kind of our plan, and then I've got some frequently asked questions that we'll go over as well. So like I said, hopefully most of your questions will be answered, but we will try to make sure that we are as clear as possible about our plan. So this is going to be, I got to do it right here. This might be a little bit hard to read, but I feel like before we got started, we owed kind of a little bit of context going into this conversation. So I know that's hard to read, but I'm going to go ahead and read this for you, which kind of sets the stage for where we're headed here for these next several minutes. So I'm just going to read this for you. The Waterloo Schools delivers exceptional comprehensive programs tailored to meet each student's individual needs. Our commitment to excellence is evident. Iowa's only International Baccalaureate World Program, the Waterloo Career Center, Comprehensive Special Education and English Language Learner Support, Foundational Full-Day Preschool, and robust menu of educational opportunities paired with a tiered system of instructional and behavioral supports. These enriching opportunities, while demanding significant investment, reflect our dedication to unlocking infinite possibilities for our students. We have prioritized allocating resources to ensure success for every student regardless of background. Home to one of Iowa's most diverse student bodies, the Waterloo Schools have long been recognized as a student-first organization, with cutting-edge programs and an abundance of student support services. Incredibly, we have managed to navigate the challenges of a global pandemic and economic volatility while minimizing staffing reductions and reducing property taxes for the better part of a decade. However, we have reached a critical juncture. To ensure continued educational excellence and student success amidst rising costs, declining funding, stagnant enrollment, and increasing student needs, we have developed a comprehensive multi-year budget plan. This plan outlines strategic budget adjustments and potential tax implications, providing a clear roadmap for our district's future. So I wanted to read that ahead of time because I think it's important that we know who we are as a district. And our district is what we call infinite opportunities, right? Infinite possibilities. So we pride ourselves on all of the different ways that we serve our varying student populations, from the highest achievers, from those students who, we've talked about, we offer AP in 2 different buildings, we offer IB in 2 different buildings, we've got the Career Center. And then we talked about those, we've got a significantly increasing population of English language learners, of special needs students, of at-risk students. So we really cover the entire spectrum of students. So when you're doing that and you're investing in those programs, ultimately at some point, and you're going against those other economic factors that we listed off and we'll get into, at some point you got to make a decision on what you're going to do. Are you going to continue to ensure that you're meeting the needs of all students? Or are you going to reduce some of those programs in the face of economic uncertainty? So I applaud this board. I applaud leadership. I applaud everything that we've done to get to this point. And what you're going to see in the next couple slides is this is not just a Waterloo thing. I'm going to say that again. This is not just a Waterloo thing. I had a meeting with the UEN superintendents last week. The UEN is the Urban Educators Network, is made up of about 25 of the largest school districts in the state. And one of the first questions that was asked is the budget shortfalls that each of the school districts is currently facing. 25 districts across the state, all 25 going through the same thing that we're going through right now. I think that's important to have that context. I'm not saying that there aren't some things that we can do here, but it is not just a Waterloo thing. I want to be clear. But again, I want to remind the people who are watching and the board and the audience here that the leadership before me, the board before me, has done a tremendous job of not having to cut positions and of not having to raise property tax. In fact, property tax has gone down, except for last year, it had gone down at least the 10 previous years. So again, we have done the taxpayer as well as we could. We've also done as well as we can for our staff over those last 10 years. But again, at some point, factors go into play where you have to consider your options and look at those options moving forward. So here's the 3-year budget proposal. And we're calling it 3-year. Oh, I keep forgetting that I need to do this. Here's a 3-year budget proposal. And it's really, we talked this morning a little bit, it's really a 2-year budget proposal because phase 1, year 2024, 2025, has already been done. It's already taken care of. And I will go over those here in a little bit. The reason this is coming to the board now is because we were able to do phase 1 last year really without having to affect staff members to a great extent. Now as we get into phase 2 and phase 3, the fact that we are looking more and more at looking into how we're allocating our staff members, it's going to need to come to your attention and your blessing and your approval moving forward. So you can see, for this year, we did reduce $5 million. And in my opinion, we did a great job. Our leadership team did a tremendous job of getting there. It wasn't easy. There were some difficult decisions we had to make. But ultimately, we made it work, and everything this year has gone according to plan. Phase 2 is next year. So that's, somebody up there mentioned, next year's kind of the big year, right? This is the year we're going to have to make some significant reductions. And that's our goal for next year is to reduce $10 million. Phase 3 then, 2 years out for 26-27, would be to reduce the budget. And again, this is the general fund budget, and again, we'll talk about what that means compared to other funds, is to reduce that by $6 million. How did we get here? And a few weeks ago, we sent out a letter to our staff and kind of giving them a heads up, hey, here's what's coming. Some of this was explained in that letter. Some of this was explained at our last board meeting. But I wanted to quickly cover really 4 different factors that we've called it the perfect storm. The perfect storm, not just here in Waterloo, but perfect storm has happened across this entire state. Again, with virtually every district who's got either declining enrollment or stagnant enrollment is basically in the same place. So there's 4 main factors of how we got here. One is the exhaustion of COVID-19 funds. Waterloo Schools received $52.6 million in federal funding. This money helped increase salaries, create new positions, and offset costs. That money is gone, while increased salaries and new positions have remained. So again, I applaud the board member and previous leadership we had to make sure we kept our staff. And where we saw the most significant increases was with our support staff. And that happened about 4 years ago. We made significant investment in our support staff. And again, we need to keep those employees. They're vital to what we do. However, those increased salaries have not gone away. Each year they've gone up by an average of 3%. At some point, increased salaries without that COVID relief money is going to catch up to you. In addition, we've added several new positions, which I will get into, and those positions have been key to what we've done. All the things that we listed, all the different things that we do for our students have been key, and those positions have played a huge role in that. Next up is insufficient state funding. I applaud Kristen. Thank you for speaking. It's been an interesting few years with me in this role. Over the past several years, the rate at which the state has funded public schools has not kept up with the costs needed to provide the district with year-over-year salary and day-to-day operational costs. Kristen, you mentioned, I think the government, right, the state legislature is looking at 2%. 2%. On average, usually we give 3% on average, and again, I'm just using some generalities here, 3% raises to our staff. That, when you compare to other sectors across the country, 3% is actually pretty low. Okay, most sectors across the country are at least that level or much higher. So when we only get 2%, and we give our staff 3%, you compound that year over year over year, and some years are more, some years is less. But if you compound that year over year, you simply can't operate that way where you're not getting enough funding that's going to cover the annual cost to give for the simple rate of cost or cost of living for your staff. The next thing, step 3 here, or point 3, is declining enrollment and increased student needs. We've said here at the board table for the last 4 years we've been very fortunate with student enrollment has been stagnant. It's right around 10,000 students. But if you go back 10 years, which we'll show you a slide, we're down 5%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's 400 plus students. In addition to that, the number of ELL, or English Language Learner students, has increased by 54%, while the number of special education students have increased by 24%. Those are two factors working against each other: decreasing enrollment, increasing ELL students and special ed students. And again, we'll talk about that here in a few minutes, but for those populations, you have to have staff that match the needs of those students. So we have seen a significant influx in staff that are meeting those needs in those programs across the district. Last but not least, we've mentioned higher inflation. And people might say, okay, inflation, who cares about inflation? But the past few years have seen higher than normal inflation rates, further straining our financial resources. One example would be transportation. I know transportation is a sore subject, but our transportation rates have gone up significantly, and Niall's giving me the eye over there a little bit. But our transportation rates went up $2 million in the last year. That's inflation. That's general fund inflation. $2 million. I wish we could spend that on staff. But we've got to get our kids to school, right? So 5% inflation over the last, since 2020, with historical 100-year average is 3%. Okay, so inflation's a huge part of it. So as we've done these budget conversations, what have been our guiding principles? There's been 5 principles we followed throughout, and these are our core values as a district. Okay, we do these all the time, not just in these conversations, but every meeting, every conversation we have. Oh, so I got this little clicker, it's doing that, but I'm sorry about that. First and foremost, student first. With students being our top priority, we have worked hard to protect teachers and other frontline employees who work closest to our kids on a daily basis. So in every conversation, we've done everything we can to protect our teaching staff and those who work closest to our kids. And that's debatable, that's up for a little bit of interpretation, but that has been our primary focus. Guiding principle number 2 is people over programs. We've explored all budget reduction ideas before employees. Focus areas include programs, professional development, curriculum, equipment, and technology. All those things were considered first before any employee reductions were considered. When you think about the $5 million reduction this year, a large majority of that was right in there. Programs, PD, curriculum, equipment, and technology. Collaborative approach, and I'm super glad to see a lot of our teacher leaders in this room. We and some of our DLT members and district leaders. We believe perspectives from many people leads to smarter decisions. These decisions were not made in isolation. I'll say that again. These decisions were not made in isolation. In total, more than 40 district leaders, building administrators, and teacher leaders were involved in this process. So this was not a top-down decision. In fact, I would say it was more from the trenches to the top. Shared responsibility. We have worked hard to ensure budget reductions are assumed by all departments, buildings, and grade levels. And finally, I know this is up for interpretation, but I truly believe we really try to operate by no surprises, which means while difficult, we have done and will continue to do everything we can. It's not easy, but everything we can to eliminate surprises from our employees, giving them ample opportunity to prepare for staffing changes and reductions. So let's do it again here. All right. So when we sent the letter out last month, the feedback I got was, where did this come from? Where did this come from? What I want to make sure you understand is that these conversations have been going on for more than 15 months. The reason perhaps the public hasn't heard as much is because, quite honestly, last year, what we saw across the state, and we're having it now too, is that serious alarm bells were raised district after district after district in terms of their plans going public. And it's our turn. It's our turn right now. Our plan has gone public. But we opted to try to do as much of this internally as possible. So I'm very proud of our group for finding $5 million worth of reductions in an internal process. But you can take a look there at the different meetings that have happened. And DLT stands for District Leadership Team. So these are full group meetings that have happened focused solely on the budget. You can see meeting after meeting, DLT principals, DLT, and when I say principals, that's all of the 19 head principals in our district. And in those meetings, it was district leadership team as well. So you can see month after month after month, it was like, okay, let's get feedback. Let's make sure we're making the right decisions. What are some opportunities for efficiencies within our buildings? And it was a constant up and down feedback from the buildings to district leadership back and forth. Then, as you can see, they really started picking up here this year. DLT, principals. The part I'm most proud about, I loved our collaborative approach. Again, 40 people, meetings right there. On days that we had off, on days that were, when I say off, with their professional development team, this room was packed with people trying to find the best ideas moving forward. But the thing I'm proud of is that we've had WEA at the table. And we've had WESP. I probably should have included them as well. But you can see we've got a number of people. I really appreciate you guys being here. This has not been easy on that group either. But I feel incredibly good about the collaboration. This is, again, I do not want to, I want to be clear. These are not easy conversations to have, but the collaboration and the conversation that we've had has been second to none. And I applaud them for being at the table with us and our district leaders and building leaders as we've gone through this. In total, so again, my point for this slide is that more than 100 meetings happened focused on budget. This was not just a quick, all right, here's what we're doing. A lot of thought went into this. Here's those names. Let's do this again. It's hard to read, but you can see the 40 plus names that were involved in these conversations. The reason I use this is because we all make decisions. It's not a top-down. We're not a top-down organization. And here's the process real quick we went through. We essentially had 4 groups. What we did was we brainstormed every single possible opportunity for budget reduction in this district. We had a list of over 100 ideas. What we did was this. We gave our secondary principals, we split into basically 4 groups. We had DLT was one group, district leadership team. We had secondary principals was another group. We had elementary principals was a third group, and we had WEA and WESP leadership was a fourth group. All 4 groups were given this task, and this was to give us their recommendations on what would be possible budget reductions for the district. So all 4 groups were given time to, from their perspective and advocating for their people, they gave the district leadership team their suggestions and kind of ranked. There were some rankings that we did, but again, the process was incredibly thorough. And I feel like we heard from as many voices as possible. Once that was done, there was a lot of back and forth of, okay, we hear your ideas, we put them in a list, we came back and forth. A couple different times we had some conversations about, do you feel good about this? We took some things off, put some things back on, and ultimately we came to the list you have this evening. So this next list here, I know it's hard to see, I apologize. But this is the year 1. This is phase 1. This is the things that we did for this year. So these things have already been completed. Okay, and what I'm going to do with this, I'm not going to read every single line item because we would be here for quite some time. I'm going to highlight a few of what I would consider to be, I mean, they're all very important, let me be clear. But I'm going to highlight a few things that you may have questions about as you look at this. The biggest cost savings coming into this year was a reduction of 15 instructional coaches. I could be off by 1 or 2, but we went from 45 instructional coaches last year to about 30 this year. And that was a difficult conversation to have. There was a lot of work that went into it. What you will see across the state is that is a common theme across most across a lot of districts, is they're looking at their what was TLC and the instructional coaches is a lot of districts, ourselves included, that's a place we're looking at making those reductions at, and that's what we did for this past year. The silver lining with those positions is that we're able to find landing spots, or we're able to find classroom teaching positions for most of those. And I think for anybody who wanted to remain in the district, I think we were able to find landing spots for them. A few other highlights of the budget for this year was that we reduced the nursing contract by $800,000. So as of 2 years ago, or I guess as of last year, we had an RN and a nurse's aide in every building. That is, again, all of these are super important. As we compared what we had in our buildings versus other districts, and again, I'm not saying that we have to do what other districts do, but we felt like we could find more efficiencies by reducing especially the number of nurses' aides in our buildings. So the number of nurses' aides was reduced about in half, in addition to some other savings. There's some other things there. We reduced the Life Labs budget. So if you're familiar with Life Labs, we used to, as of last year, we had some trips. The kids loved them, but they were out of state. They went to Minneapolis. Some of them went to Des Moines, Dubuque. We said these are great, but when we're trying to reduce budget, we had to pull back some of those trips. So we reduced our Life Labs budget by $200,000. One of the steps we took was to reduce health insurance benefits for administrators and admin support. So that kind of flew under the radar, but we had a $200,000 savings by essentially cutting the amount, depending on how you look at it, the amount that our administrators received towards health insurance was reduced. We reduced some custodians and maintenance positions through attrition. We reduced our TQ budget, which is for professional development, and a few other things there. And again, school board, if we want to come back at the end, if you want to talk about a certain line item, we certainly can. But I kind of wanted to go through this piece pretty quick. The total savings for this year, our goal is $5 million, and we reduced $4.825 million. Okay, here's our proposal for next year. Year 2, our goal is to reduce $10 million. And these amounts are listed in order from greatest, I guess in descending order. So line item 1 is reduce 18 custodian or maintenance positions. We feel, and again, every position is important, but a lot of these where we consulted with other districts to see how much staff we have per square footage or per student compared to other districts. A number of these, and I'm looking at Sam, I think at least 5 of those are already, are already resignations or already through attrition that we've already lost. So that it's probably more like 13 positions between, to be clear, custodians and maintenance, we have over 100 employees in our district. We'd be looking at reducing 13 of those positions. The silver lining of this changes with the AEA is that we have been able to find a significant cost savings through our general fund from the AEA changes. So you can see there's $1 million line item. The next line item is $1 million in reducing 20 employees, certified and or classified. We've already started to generate some feedback from principals on what that could look like. I believe some of those are positions that have gone unfilled for part of the year. A theme you're going to hear from me is in every opportunity we're looking to reduce through attrition. What that means is if somebody leaves and is no longer with the district and that position is open, we are trying our best to fill that, to not need that position and either fill it internally or not fill it at all. So that has been a huge focus of ours, is to look at attrition. The next item is reduce 11 teacher librarians. After that, one of the biggest decisions we made last month was to eliminate transportation of private school students. That was a conversation that we had with our private schools. That is a step that many districts have taken. We had not done that. We have been good partners and we will continue to be good partners, but that is an obvious cost savings for us. Reduce elementary and middle school summer school budget. We're looking at pretty significant reductions there. There's still summer school for special needs students, still summer school for high school, still some of our elementary programming, but that is an area we think we can save a good amount. We're looking at reductions in credit recovery in PBDA, which is our performance-based diploma academy. Those will be staffing reductions that we've been working through. Reduce teacher quality and professional development budget. So that's money that we have an opportunity. We've already been working with the TQ committee to reallocate that back into the general fund. Reducing 4 middle school teachers. Eliminating extra contract days for instructional coaches. So what you'll see on this year 2 is that instructional coaches are not on this list, but we do feel like we have a cost savings by eliminating the extra contract days of our coaches. We feel like there's another opportunity for cost savings in the nursing budget. You're going to see another reduction in Life Labs budget. 3 high school teachers, which again, 2 of those I think are already not filled. Again, there's a lot of common theme here of positions that are not filled. So when you see these, don't immediately assume that these are people that are, positions that are currently in our buildings. A lot of these are currently vacated. Reduce 4 family support workers. We currently have 14 family support workers. That would be reduced to 10. One of the things I heard, I believe, from one of the people who spoke, our administrators, and I'll have a separate slide. You're going to see all the reductions that administrators will take, because probably the one thing that I've heard many things, but the one thing I've heard a lot of is it feels top heavy. What reductions are administrators going to take? And I'll have a slide where that's totaled, but right now our administrators are ready to take a salary freeze, which means there'll be no salary raises for all administrators, myself included, district leadership team included. All building administrators would take a salary freeze for next year. And then we would eliminate these director positions. So the position that's being vacated by Jeff Frost at the end of the year, the executive director of CTE, that position would be no longer. We've already announced that the director of athletics is going away. Dan Huff has got a new position at Central Middle School. Director of Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging is going to go away. That was going to be Shar, Dr. Shar Suddath, who will be now in the Associate Director of Human Resources role. Another director cut, so the director position that Shar is vacating is Director of Preschool. We did have that posted, and we are no longer going to fill that position. We've also are planning to reduce one more administrator, and again, I will have a separate screen. Yep, thanks. Thank you. We'll have a separate screen where I show you all the administrative cuts, but we're planning on reducing another administrator to be determined. We haven't quite figured out where that's going to come from, but we think we've got a pathway. Eliminate secondary building substitutes. Our retirement incentive that we offered this year is gonna garner us about $150,000. One thing that you're going to see there, we have plans to close Expo Building next year. So we believe we've been in conversations about moving the student programming over to Greenbrier. We're looking at moving print services and media services over to West High, and then we still have to figure out where our laundry is going to go. But right now, we believe Expo will be offline next year, and that building will be available for sale in November, is our goal. That's our goal. In the fall, late fall, November 1st. And then you can see there's some other things there too, restructuring some departments, reducing cell phone stipends of administrators. Again, administrators are going to be taking a pretty significant cut in terms of what they are receiving in terms of their benefits. Restructuring, eliminate SAI conference. We're going to do some shifting with Chromebooks for grades K through 1. We're going to look at some funding. We love the Lost Island trip for 5th grade students, but we're going to look at some alternative funding for that if possible. And then last but not least, we love the staff t-shirts, but we'll have to put a pause on those for now. So that is year 2. I'll go through this whole, and we can come back, board, and answer any questions you have. Year 3. We've been working with WEA, WSP, and AFSCME about potential cost savings during the 26-27 school year. So again, this is 2 years out. This is not next year. This is 2 years out. We believe that we can save close to $2 million if we're able to come to an agreement on some reduced salary increases for those groups. For 26-27, right now we're looking at reducing our instructional coaches down reducing 16 instructional coaches. I believe in this model we would still have 12 or 13 instructional coaches is what I recall. In or around there, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. That's more to be determined. Reduce 20 certified employees. Reduce employee stipends and contract days, consolidation of secondary programming, which is more opportunities to have programming at the WCC, such as Expo, which we talked about earlier, more cost savings from AA flow-through, reduce 2 more administrators. We're looking at reducing the IJAG program budget, and then reducing the business and student services department. Now, I've seen how other districts have done this. And other districts give more general, and again, anybody, you can do it whatever way you want in terms of listing these. Most districts will just give generalities. I feel like, and our team felt like it was important to give you the exact line items so there's no surprises. It's a little bit, anytime we talk about these, and I heard, it's we're dealing with people's lives, and that's quite honestly, it's left a lot of sleepless nights for not just me, for a lot of leaders in this district. This has not been easy. And I know we're going to have clearly some employees who have some questions. And I'm going to talk to you about what those next steps are, because I talked to our directors and I said, we've got to be prepared to have these conversations immediately. I did want to show you real quick, because again, I want to be clear. Like somebody said, it's got to start from the top, and it is starting from the top. We're looking at more than $2 million worth of savings from administration alone, or this building. 2 administrators, salary freeze, health insurance benefits, 4 directors, another administrator, 2 more administrators, and then every department at the SC is going to be reduced to some extent. Cell phone stipends, and so forth. So I want to be clear that we heard our staff loud and clear. Like it's got to start from the top, and I feel like we are doing that. Those were not easy conversations to have, but we felt like we had to lead by example. So again, I want your key takeaway from this slide is more than $2 million worth of savings are coming from the administrative ranks. Here's a slide we wanted to put in front of you so you can see, oh my gosh, the declining enrollment from 2015, 2016 to 2024, 2025. That is the number of students that we serve, has gone down more than 400 students. You can see, now it appears that state funding has gone up, and it has. Each year, state funding goes up. But by losing 400 students, so if we had, let's just assume we still had the 450 more students that we did back in 15, 16. Had we still had those students in the district, and you compound that year over year, that would be $16 million more that we would have in state funding compared to what we'd have received. So declining enrollment plays a role in this. In addition to that, I mentioned that ELL and special ed, our student populations have gone up dramatically. In 2015, 2016, the district had 921 students identified as ELL. This year, we've got 1,408 students identified as ELL. That's an increase of 54%. Keep in mind that our student enrollment has gone down by more than 400 students. The same thing with special ed. Special ed in 2015, 2016, we had 1,618 students identified as special ed. This year, we had close to 2,000 students identified as special ed. What that means is that you have to have, there's more supports that need to be used to meet the needs of those students. Now, we do get additional funding for those students, but the funding we get does not really, in my mind, come close to meeting the needs of what we have to have for those students. A number of our students have individualized staff members with them that are with them on throughout the day, or maybe they're with a couple students. Okay, and that does not, and again, it's the funding that we get from the state for those students does not nearly add up to or equate to a full staff member being with them. So when you've got declining enrollment and increased number of students who are ELL or special needs, like your budget is going to take a hit. So now I'm going to go on to frequently asked questions. I know these might be hard to read, but these were the questions as we released this out, as we released this letter last month. We had a lot of questions that came in, whether it was through emails, phone calls, social media, within our own staff. So what we've done here is we've collected probably the 15 most frequently asked questions that we've gotten. And so I want to make sure that you understand, again, we're trying to operate with transparency. We're trying to operate and really try to explain this as best we can. First and foremost, first, are these cuts unique to Waterloo? No. Many Iowa school districts, particularly those experiencing declining or stagnant student enrollment, are undergoing budget reductions. If you have your phone in front of you, or if you are watching at home, Google search any district, any large district in the state, and add in budget reductions at the end. You will find an article similar to what we have from the Courier. Thanks, Maria, for being here. Is every district in the state has gone through the same things. So a lot of people are saying, well, what's going on in Waterloo? What's going on? How are they managing their money? It's every district in the state, not just Waterloo. Des Moines, $12 million. Cedar Rapids, $10 million. Iowa City, $8 million. Sioux City, $7 million. Council Bluffs, $6 million. Go ahead and look it up. Every district is doing it. Not saying I'm not saying that we couldn't do some things better, okay? But every district is going through this. If you anticipated this, why didn't you take action sooner? This is a question that I heard in the comments. In hindsight, okay, we could have implemented more substantial cuts for this year. We could have. Last year really would have been the first year to do that. However, I want to remind you, we had 2 unforeseen leadership transitions last year that came out of the blue. 2 people who sat at this table who helped make decisions, a CFO and a vice president. It's hard to make decisions when you don't have a CFO. It's hard to make decisions when you don't have this position that was right next to me. Some of those decisions that could have been made for this year, whether you like it or not, they had to be placed on hold. Reductions were inevitable, absolutely. Could we have done more for this year? We could have. But with that transition, with really not having a CFO for those 6 months, we really had to put some things on pause. So I know it feels like the 10 million feels like a lot. It is. I wish we could have shifted a little bit more to this year. I really do. But based on all the transition that was happening, it just simply wasn't the right time. Will budget reductions change, or are these cuts final? In most instances, the decision's final. Okay, this is where it's like we've already generated a lot of feedback. Due to several factors beyond our control, including employee attrition, student enrollment, state funding, we may consider minor adjustments to the 26-27 budget. That was a big discussion we had as district leaders, was as you look at the 26-27, we are going to continue to do what's best for our district. If there's opportunities to make smarter, better decisions, we'll make them. Right now, that's where we're at in terms of some of those positions for 26-27. Could some things change? Possibly. But right now, for next year, those positions, assuming the school board approves it, we're going to move forward with those changes for next year. How do you decide which employee groups will be reduced? We prioritize protecting employees who work directly with students, especially teaching staff. While all roles are important, reductions focused on areas with the least direct student impact. When will employees know if their position is being reduced? District leadership will promptly contact affected employees. And what I'm saying promptly is our directors have the directive from me that emails are going out tonight. Assuming this is approved, emails are going out to affected employees immediately. Sam, I'm looking at you too, right? I mean, we have it timed for this evening, correct?
We have timed emails going out so that we can schedule the in-person meetings to talk through things as early as tomorrow morning.
So we said we owe it to our people, anyone who's impacted, they need to know ASAP. I believe we have a day full of, again, this is all assuming this is approved tonight. Tomorrow we have a day full of meetings with if you go back to that 25-26 slide, those 2 slides, like those employees, we're going to meet with them to talk about what that process looks like tomorrow for most of our employees. There's some we're not going to be able to get to, but most of our employees. By law, reductions must be completed by April 30th. However, our plan is to do it much sooner. We feel like we owe it to our employees to give them as much time as possible. And what our directors have heard is that we want to have as many conversations prior to spring break, which starts this Friday, as possible. How will pay negotiations be handled during this time? Conversations, quite honestly, have already begun. We've got some work to do. It's going to be some compromise. I'll be honest, WA and WSP and all of our groups have been they've been very Great about coming to the table with ideas. And in return, we are absolutely going to come back to them up with ideas for what we can do. To be clear, we've already got agreement in place for next year with our teachers of 3%. So there's no change to, I want people to be clear, there's no change in teacher salaries for next year. I'm looking at Sam, okay?
So there's no change to the agreement that we
Yes.
have from last year.
Thank you. Yep. We're still working with our other support groups, working through that. I know Sam has started that process. More of the conversation will be focused on the 26-27 school year. So we're already having conversations about how we can meet in the middle to make sure we meet our budget restraints, but also give something back. And we've talked about what that could look like in terms of the contract, in terms of some language that we could look at. It's one of the biggest things that they've been asking for, and I think that's something we need to discuss further. So a question was that I saw a lot in the comments, and it's like in the comments, right? Like that's where we're at these days, but hey, that's fine. Why have you added positions when budget was tight? Jared, why have you added budget? Why have you added positions? Each year, district leadership must ensure that buildings are staffed to meet the unique needs of students. What we've heard loud and clear is that our buildings need more support, student supports. From the day I came here, it was Jared, leadership team, we need more supports in our buildings. Student support specialists, family support workers, special ed teachers, paras, school resource officers, and campus safety monitors. So we have met that, it was just loud and clear that we need those positions. And we felt like, and those really started 3 years ago, my first year here. After discussions with our former CFO, we felt like we could add these positions. Whether upon retrospect, should we have added those? I'm not sure. You know, I do feel good. I feel like we're meeting the needs of our students with those positions. Could it be questioned? It certainly could. But some of those, special ed teachers, paras, we simply have to add. And what you saw, now clearly we talked about family support workers, but you notice that a lot of the other positions that we've added, when we talked about what do our buildings need, those positions were not brought up. It was reported to us, and we feel the same way, that those positions are too important. Building leaders have consistently advocated for retaining these positions, emphasizing their importance. The next question that came up was, we heard you added several administrators. How come? The district has recently added 3 director positions since I've started. Director of Secondary Ed, Director of Equity, Director of School Improvement. The first 2 roles that we added, the Director of Secondary was a position, I don't know how it all worked out, but that was a position the Waterloo Schools had for a long time. It wasn't there for a couple of years. If you look at every large district, 7,000 students or above, they all have a Director of Secondary Education. The second role that we added was Director of Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. Now that's a whole different subject, and Latanya, thanks for coming and speaking this evening, and all the people who spoke. Going into next year, we can't have that position anymore. It's been clear to us in our conversations with legal counsel. The reason we added that is because as one of the most diverse districts in the state, and knowing the needs of our students and our staff, we strongly believe that that was a position that we were missing here in the Waterloo Schools. If you look at the 10 largest districts in the state, every district had a Director of Equity. And so again, for us, it was a no-brainer. The last position was Director of School Improvement. The Director of School Improvement position, and Dana, thanks for being here, you've done an outstanding job for us, is a position that is funded through AA flow-through money. So remember you saw on the slides where we're getting extra money back from AA? There's been a lot of changes that have happened, and now we have control over that money. We took control of that money and said, hey, we need a Director of School Improvement. And the feedback we've gotten is that is a vital role for our district. Additionally, the district elevated 3 positions. So the other 3 positions that we elevated were the Associate Director of Human Resources, Associate Director of Student Services, Associate Director of Special Education. We moved those. Those were current positions. When those employees left, we changed them to Associate Directors. The annual cost of those 3 positions was $120,000. Only one of these 6 positions is being reduced. And again, this is based on the feedback we got, was like these positions have become too important in our district, underscoring the perceived importance of these roles. So I want the purpose of that FAQ is that what we did there for the first 3 director positions, the 2 are positions that we've either had or that every district our size has. The third one is actually we're saving more than $1 million through AA flow through, and that helps pay for part of that, for that salary for that position. The other thing is when people hear that there's 3 new associate directors, keep in mind that there was already people in those roles, and we simply added those, made those administrative level positions that have been, when you look at our increased, I'm looking at Adrian right there, our increased attendance and our improved attendance has been solely, you know, that's one of the things we're measured on. And I would argue that Adrian and Sheena and her team, that's been a huge thing that her team has accomplished through that position. So let's move on to the property tax levy. And Emily, I think you're here. Can we hand out that one pager if you're, can we hand that out? Okay. So we've got a one pager for you that's going to give you more information. And JT, you're going to tag team this with me here, okay? So we're going to transition to the property tax levy rate. We get them up here too. Yeah, we need copies up here.
Yes. 2, 1. My math is right.
Thank you, Emily.
Okay, I hope everybody's got a chance to has the one pager in front of them. The one pager and this information up here kind of works in tandem. But what is the property tax levy rate the district is proposing? And what we're proposing for 25-26 is $17.84 per $1,000 of taxable valuation. And so if you are a property owner, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to me as a property owner? So for a home valued at $100,000, the expected increase would be $199, just shy of $200 per year. So you can do the math there. So if you have a $200,000 house, that'd be $400 roughly. If you have a $50,000 house, that'd be $100. So you can use the math there. What are the next steps with the tax levy increase? So this is not actual a formal step in terms of the tax levy process. We simply wanted to make you aware of this. The information did go out, but we want to be open and transparent and get ahead of this and make sure you understand why we're doing this. So the initial hearing for the proposed tax levy will be held at the next board meeting, which is March 24th, 2025, which we talked about earlier. Starts at 5 o'clock. The final adoption of the certified budget and tax levy will be approved by the Waterloo Schools Board of Education on April 28th, 2025. Why are you raising the property tax levy? And I'm going to do my best here, and JT, if you want to, some outsider eyes, you can certainly chime in as well. District is increasing. There's a part of the property tax levy that's the cash reserve portion of the tax levy. This increase will help cover increasing costs of special ed, English language learners, and other at-risk programs. So I forget what meeting it was. It was a few months ago where we had the special ed deficit. And it was roughly 6 million. I'm forgetting right now. It's
Close to 5 million.
5 million. Yep. So that is a difference in philosophy that we have started using that was not used previously. That's a philosophy that most districts use, is to go into debt in special ed, and you have to backfill that using the cash reserve levy. So JT, do you want to kind of explain a little bit more than I can on that?
Yeah, sure. So most districts, as Jared said, they operate their special ed deficit, again, because the costs are higher to operate special programs, whether it's special ed or English language programs. The revenues we receive fall short of what the actual expenditures are, so there's a deficit. So what the state allows then for that deficit balance, you could go to the SBRC, which is a authoritative body with the state Department of Education, and you can ask for that authority for that deficit. And then once you get that authority, it's up to the board to decide, okay, do I want to backfill that authority with property taxes? So that's a board decision. Well, past practice for Waterloo was not to even get the authority piece of it. So there was no conversation even about property taxes, the related property taxes. So for a long period of time, Waterloo was missing out on the special ed deficit authority that it could have been receiving. Again, we're probably talking, $1 to $5 million annually for the last at least 10 years. And therefore, I think the philosophy was to make sure that the property tax rate was not impacted or even lowered at that point. So that's one piece of it. And then the last 2 years, the cash reserve levy is actually, it's limited by the state. You can only levy so much, and the way it is calculated, because we receive so much ESSER dollars in fiscal year 23 and 24, we were not allowed to levy any cash reserve. So we were maxed out, if you will. Last year, the ESSER money went away. We were able to levy $28 million if we wanted to. Well, the district only levied $2 million at that point. Again, that's why the property tax rate did increase slightly last year. So again, we had the ability or the authority to levy $28 million. We levied $2 million. This year, we have the ability to levy $24 million, and we're talking about levying about $14 million. And of that $14 million, as we said, about $5 million is related to the special ed deficit. About $2 million is related to the EL, or 1.5 is related to the English language learner deficit. Then we have about $1.5 million for on-time funding because of our increased enrollment, open enrollment increases, as well as extra weighting for our EL programs. And then the remaining 6.5 or $6 million would be to help backfill past deficits and get our general fund back on track from a financial standpoint. Because if you remember in December when the auditors were here, from fiscal year 23 to 24, we went from a fund balance of $35.5 million to $14.6 million. So over $20 million loss in the general fund. And this year we're projecting a similar decrease of about $15 to $16 million loss. So again, the cash reserve levy, in addition to backfilling those deficit programs, is also, we're trying to get back on track to get our solvency ratio up to a point that's in adherence with our board policy. I know that was probably long-winded, but
You did a good job.
If there are questions, I'm happy to take those.
I don't want to sound completely stupid, but what does cash reserve, what levy, when you're saying cash reserve levy, what do you mean?
Yeah, the cash reserve levy is part of the general fund levy. So we have different funding.
Okay, what do you mean by levy though? Like, I understand like a property tax levy. So when you say the cash reserve levy, that's like the taxes that come in for it. That's all that means, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. JT, I might go through these couple last FAQs and then we'll like start to have more conversation if that sounds good. That was a great, hopefully that made sense to you. Again, it's just a little bit of a shift in, I would say a shift in philosophy. I was looking at and I think I've shared this with a couple board members. In 2022, there's 328 districts in the state. There was only 40 that did not use a special ed deficit, and Waterloo is one of those. Yeah. Most districts our size were doing special ed deficit of $3 million plus. I think, like JT said, I think that was to protect the taxpayer, but now it's kind of catching up to us. So this increase seems extreme. How come? And JT, you did a good job of that, but declining enrollment, low state funding, underfunded mandates, reduced federal funding, legislative changes, high inflation. Remember I said the perfect storm? It's truly the perfect storm right now. And then again, it's not just us, it's across the state. This will help stabilize finances and ensure we can continue to provide the necessary resources and opportunities for our students to succeed. This is going to sound a little bit like the question earlier, but if you anticipated this, why didn't you take action sooner? In hindsight, we could have increased the property tax levy at a greater rate for this year. We could have, and JT alluded to that. We only did $2 million this year. Given our tax levy structure, this would have been the first year where a tax rate increase was possible. So that's an important thing. Last year was really the first time, given the structure, that we really could have done that. So that's an important clarification. I'm going to go back. Perfect storm. Unforeseen leadership transitions within both the business department and school board. Had we had those positions, had we had some continuity, it might have looked a little bit different. But instead we went for a much smaller tax rate maybe than we could have. Here's a question we're getting a lot. Is the new tax rate, and I heard it in the questions earlier, connected to the new high school? No. The property tax rate, the property tax levy increase is not related to new high school. The high school's $165 million construction is fully funded by SAVE from sales tax revenue, not property tax. For 20 years, Waterloo schools have used SAVE funds to build or improve facilities without burdening taxpayers. So then this was a question. Did you mislead the public during the election? I want to be clear on this. Each time this topic was discussed, we were clear. Property taxes would not increase as a result of the high school project. There were several public meetings and town hall meetings where we explained that a property tax increase was likely given our financial situation. I was in 2 town hall meetings where those came up. And Jeff Sommerfeld, who you saw over there, was very clear that he said that our tax rate levy would go up, but not as a result of the high school. We also had those conversations in meetings and even at the board table. So again, I know there's misinformation being spread out there. And again, I will take some feedback. If we weren't clear enough, then my apologies. But in my mind, we never intentionally misled the public. Do you plan to raise property tax rate next year? Based on current projections, and this is what we talked about, JT, we've talked about this. Like, we truly feel like if this is the one big cut we need to make, or one big rip the Band-Aid off, not only on the budget, but also on the tax rate. So I think that's the last of my slides. So, questions from the board. We went through a lot. It's a lot to take in.
Before we get into anything, can this slideshow be made available to the public? Because I saw a lot, we're like trying to take pictures as they go. Can the slideshow just be made available?
Yeah, I want to get it to the staff. Yeah, we can make it. I mean, this is open meeting, so clearly we can. I need to get to this to the staff first.
Yeah.
The staff has not seen this.
No, that's fine.
But then we can get to the public. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not gonna start it off, but we'll have comments and questions and comments from the board. Or clarification.
Can I have my 3 minutes?
We times that by,
Get the cards out.
times it by at least 5 or 6, so.
So my perspective is a little bit different, mostly the same as the superintendent's, as a board member. So I'd like to just share my thoughts from my seat in the House as I see it. And I appreciated all the comments through this whole process that we've received. We've read them, and they've all been helpful in helping make an informed decision. At a high level, the number one responsibility of any board of directors of any organization is to protect the brand. Okay? In the case of schools, that means fidelity to the mission. The mission is to give comprehensive support and diverse experience needed to graduate with a diploma and a plan. That's our mission. And also respect the taxpayers who own the system. The taxpayers own Waterloo Schools. So as a board member, there's responsibility on both ends. So what's the proper balance? And many of you know I've advocated every of the last 10 years that we decrease taxes, that we needed to do that. And part of that was to incentivize the community to invest in property. But you're not going to have to, you can invest, start a business, build a building, whatever, and not have to be burdened with huge taxes. Because our tax base is very, very low, and I'm going to make that comment at the end. So we need to increase our tax base. Okay, so why am I now supporting this? First of all, the brand name. What is Waterloo Schools? What's it mean? It means a series of very often unique and important elements. The first one, the Career Center. It's really a regional career center, unlike probably any other in the state. 800 kids, our kids, take about 1,100 courses each semester. It's also a draw, as evidenced by the 145 kids from outside the district that elect to come in and take courses. I think it's a clear-cut success. The white graduation rate is 96.1, black graduation rate 95.3. Expo students, as I think you heard earlier, are really finding it very, very beneficial for them, and that's who it was really built for to begin with. So I think it's proven as a success. All right, that's one identity. The other is as a special education center. We have more comprehensive services than almost all the surrounding districts, so we get kids that they can't serve that we do. And yes, we probably lose money on them, but it's good for the greater community. ELL, again, very increasing population, but we have comprehensive support that a lot of districts don't have. So we probably get more than our share of English language learners. We've got international baccalaureate, special programs, life labs, special programs, AP classes. Our identity is also being one of the poorest districts in the state. We're a low SES. We have 73% of our students on free and reduced lunch. Only Postville and Marshalltown in the entire state are poor. These students need extra services. So what's the commonality about all the things I mentioned? Career Center, Special Education Center, ELL, IB, low SES. It's great service to the community, to the region, number one. Number two, every one of those programs is a high-cost program to deliver to the students. Much higher cost than the demographics are of most other students. So what do? If we lose our identity, we probably start to lose students, and we start that downward spiral that you mentioned of fewer and fewer students, less and less money, and now we're in real trouble. So the choice is to either start to scale back or terminate these identifying programs, or support them. Support meaning increase taxes. And the plan needs to be both the short and the long term. At every one of the high school meetings, at least that I was at, I think I commented very clearly, the long-term solution is one high school, because we can't afford to duplicate programs at two high schools for very long. That's coming to fruition a little sooner than I thought, but that was one of the reasons we started in 28-29. There was a discussion at the time to delay it to 29-30. We said we can't wait that long. Our budget's going to come crashing in on us before then. So, the tax increase. First of all, school districts cannot just tax willy-nilly. There's a thing called state authority. We don't have, even if we have the money, we can only spend so much on education. There's a ceiling. And as Jared mentioned, a lot of our programs, including our special ed weighting, doesn't cover our costs, but that ceiling applies to everybody across the board, no matter what. So our philosophy has been, don't tax more than is absolutely essential. At least that's been my philosophy, and that's what we've kindly done. That has not changed. What has changed is the amount that's essential. And specifically, what most people call a black swan event, something you just don't see coming, but all of a sudden it hits you, and that was, of course, COVID. The severity of the educational damage has proven to be much greater and much longer lasting than anyone anticipated. The national report card that just came out a couple days ago showed a continuing decline, 2024 continuing decline on math and English and science scores across the country. But that decline is broken into two segments. The upper echelon of students have recovered. The lower echelon have not. And by the way, if you look at the gap between the higher level students and the lower expanded greatly during COVID. So a lot of people didn't see that, didn't realize that at the time. Waterloo, I'm going to call out Superintendent Lindeman at this point. In the fall, after COVID, I think the staff vote was 1 to 20 maybe, to start school in person. That call was made, and Waterloo started school in person. I mean, it wasn't every other day, still a lot on total virtual. I think that helped mitigate the damage of COVID in Waterloo. But nonetheless, it's there. The national numbers show that since COVID, well, first of all, the mathematics, believe it or not, score have increased over the last 50 years, every year. Just by a smidgen, but every year was an increase in math national report card scores. This year, it's what it was 25 years ago. So all the gain of the last 25 years was wiped out in one fell swoop. So this is an important thing. So, as I said, the low SES students lost the most. They have not recovered, and that's why I might take issue a little bit with superintendent saying we should have cut staff earlier. What would that have done to the student? Our students aren't out of the hole yet. So that would have come at that cost. So we may differ on that just a little bit. In some cases, the custodians, yes, they were hired. Remember, you had to scrub all the shields and everything. So we had to hire extra custodians. They should have, that change should have been made. But in terms of the support workers, the people going to the homes, getting the kids to come back to school, and we lost a huge number. They simply quit and didn't come back. We lost over 200 students a year for a couple years. So the budgets today are reflecting on probably a $5 million loss from those students. So to have not spent the effort to get those students, it isn't just protect the human capital, but it actually protected our financial capital. So you can't just cut without there being some both human and financial repercussions. So we have to be careful about that. So that's why I'm saying, okay, at this point in time, we really need to support as much we have, as long as we have. You know, the total ESSER money, it was a lot of money, but it was 3 months worth of operating. We lost March, April, and May that first year. Then we lost X% of the whole next year. So it's not really a surprise we haven't caught back up, but people didn't think it was going to be as lasting, students would catch up quicker than they have. So the paras, the student support workers, it just seemed too soon to me to pull them, and it's probably still too soon. Then lastly, the solution is not to eliminate those signature programs, but to make them more efficient. And again, we either had to consolidate to one high school or cut them out, which cut out our identity. We decided to consolidate to one high school. So we've got really a 3-year gap, although some of the things on the list started to combine some of those programs before the new high school opens. So we hopefully gain some efficiency there. So the one high school is part of the solution. It is not the reason for the interim tax increase. It is part of the reason in the future we won't be in as much harm. Now, one more comment. The city tax is 22.6 mils. School tax is supposed to be 17.8 mils, the county 6 mils. That's City of Waterloo tax. It's 22.6. So that's still the biggest chunk. And the better job we do accomplishing our mission, the less expenditures need to be out of the city and the county to really provide support for especially the dropouts. One last comment, when you look at, did I say that? Second. It is truly it. When you look at the millage rates, as I said earlier, Waterloo is a poor district. We have $266,000 of property value for each student. Cedar Falls has $411,000, Hudson $324,000, et cetera, et cetera.
Wait, will you say that again? What was Waterloo's?
$266,000 per student. So when you take our property tax levy of last year and say, okay, how much money did that provide for each student? We get the 7,800 state aids, then we get the local property tax. That amounted to $3,600 a student. We are proposing to raise that. Combined local property tax coming in will be $4,800 a student. Now, the surrounding districts are all lower in rate, But Cedar Falls, for example, their local taxes bring in $6,000 a student. Their millage rate's lower, but they've got $411,000 of property more investment. The same way with Hudson, $5,400 per student, local property tax. Cedar Rapids, $5,300 per student. Davenport's the closest we are at just a little under 5,000. So even though our property rate is higher than any of those, the tax rate, and I know that hurts every family, the reality is the amount of money we receive per student, even with that tax rate, is the lowest of anybody else in the UEN. So that's kind of how that shakes out. So in a nutshell, I think we have to do it to preserve our identity, to get us to the future, particularly to the opening of the one high school. Is that 3 minutes?
Just so one.
I was way off. Yeah, I was way off. Any more comments?
Well, I had some questions.
Yeah.
I had a comment. You want to
Go
go
ahead,
questions
Jason.
first?
No, go ahead.
Just a couple things. I just, one, I want to thank all the work on the presentation here. A lot of information, it's the big decisions here. I've kind of tried to remember back, I've been on the board for a number of years now, and I do believe my recollection on a couple of things here is that on special ed and ELL, and I'm just kind of look back through some of the past, I do think we did ask for authority on those in the past, but I don't know if we actually went and got the money for that. I can't remember on the tax part, but I think we did vote authority at times to have that option if we needed it. So just for clarification, I think we did on ELL and special ed that we asked for SBRC to get that growth. But whether we actually backfilled or not is a different part of it. I don't remember that. So
I think we did, but the magnitude of the deficit was not what it is now.
Right, correct. Yeah, I agree with that. So it has changed over time, but I think we asked for authority. I don't know if we actually backfilled much of that. It was years we didn't have to. I think we didn't and kept the rate lower. So just for a point of clarity there, from what I recall, I mean, it's not as good as it used to be, but that's what I kind of wanted to make a statement there. Few items there. I do want to note a point of appreciation that one of the costs I haven't seen that's been reduced down is our SROs. That's, to me, is a very important. School safety, us having our SRO officers there, and was at one point where we had a school that has one now that did not have one, and that was a real concern for a lot of staff members at the time and people in the community, and I'm glad we're keeping those positions, and actually I would advocate that we add more in. To me, that's where we're tax dollars well were spent, but that's for another time there. So, and we're in a tough position. Like I said, it's to Lyle's point. By keeping some of the costs down with ESSER funding, but we do have an offset of higher special ed and higher ELL that's transitional in our community here. I've looked at my neighborhood and I've looked at changes over the last 10 years. I've been in my neighborhood now for 20 plus years, and how it's evolved in those, even the last 10 years has been amazing, where it's like, it's the makeup is just so much different. And so, and not in, in a very positive way, but, it's just like, wow, it's, when we first moved here, and now it's like, we have a lot more of ELL than I would have remembered at one time. So, and a lot of, you look at it, the ELL, and people think, oh, English language learners, it's not, and somebody can give me an exact number, but the number of, it's not just ELL, it's like the number of languages we have has increased significantly. I think when I first moved here, it was, like a dozen languages or something, and I assume we're somewhere over, probably somewhere between 40, 50 plus now languages.
46, right?
46. So it's not just providing those services, but you got to provide so many different languages now that you didn't have to account for. So I mean, it's a duplication of services because the languages are different. So I mean, that's the element that has definitely changed, because I know whenever I first was involved in my thing, we would get flyers in Spanish and Bosnian, and I know right now, we were doing flyers in one of the languages from Burma, and also French, and also Marshallese. So those populations I know have increased significantly to a point where we were doing special communications for us group, and that's even went up more. So I think that's all I kind of had there. So, but I do appreciate Jarrett, the work you and your staff have done on this, and a lot of effort put there. So thank you.
Can I go?
Yeah, you can go.
Okay.
Mine will be short, so you can go ahead.
Well, mine's not. So if you want to go first, you can.
No, well.
Okay. So I have to take things kind of step back because the financial part, I've only been on finance committee for a little over a year, and understanding a lot of this stuff, I think, is almost a lifetime commitment. So one of the things first is we're worried about our general fund, right? That's our big major pot that we have to keep at a certain amount. Like what's the base it has to stay at, or it's supposed to?
Our policy says that we'll have a 10%, at least a minimum of 10% fund balance, but
10% of what? Of our budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's the big issue, is because we also have PEPL, which is where all of our building, like fixing stuff, and we've moved tech into there, right? And we have our management fund, which does. Okay.
It pays for our property and liability insurance, our
Okay.
early separation, things of that nature.
Okay. So we've tried to move some stuff around, but the big issue right now is just the general fund is just not at a point where we can sustain it. Okay. And as far as ESSER money, when you look back at what we had for ESSER money, if I didn't know what that was, I would question, like, why did they spend all of that and not use it to keep going? Because we couldn't. It had to be spent by, was it the end of 2024? Was that the end date of it? It had to be spent. And so we used it on a lot of upgrades and on salaries, which, as Lyle pointed out, now you have to keep paying them without the extra money. And I remember sitting next to Michael when we were talking about this, and he said, he's like, I can say how it's going to be for 5 years, but after that, you're going to have to look at it, and that's what we're doing. So if I can kind of go through a few of these, though, to go a little deeper, is that okay? Like you said we could, so sound good? Okay. Just because these are ones that when they bothered me to look at, I want to make sure other people understand it as well. So reducing 11 teacher librarians. Does this mean that we will no longer have libraries?
No, we'll obviously still have libraries. And we're still working through what that structure is going to look like. I know that Jen and Amy are kind of working tag teaming that one a little bit, and they've got, I believe there's going to be a meeting with them tomorrow to talk what that will look like. But no, we don't want that rumor going around. There's not going to be any libraries.
And there will be an adult in there to work with kids who come in.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that structure is going to look like,
Right.
but there's absolutely going to be something in place to ensure that students still have access to books and all those different things.
Okay. The credit recovery, that was a question we'd had. We're not eliminating credit recovery. Can you talk on that a little bit more too?
Nope, and I think Josh just took off. I forwarded you guys an email, and again, this is why this is tricky, because I want to make sure our staff find out what the plan is before.
Right. But we're still going to have it, is what I'm.
Yes, there's going to be some form of credit recovery in our high schools. It's going to look a little bit different. And again, I did forward an email to you, Josh. I had Josh draft me what that is going to look like, so that's in your inbox.
No, I just want to make sure this. Just because I know something doesn't mean that everybody else knows
Sure.
what that means. So.
Nope, no. We're for sure going to have some form of credit recovery that's going to serve all of our high school students. Absolutely.
As far as professional development, are we going to be offering? Maybe Amy can talk on this. We'll have other offerings when we reduce the budget. What happens? And we don't stop doing teacher PT.
No, and that's part of the continuum of what we are planning to offer. We did have a collaborative process, and I was grateful for that with our WA leadership team to work through some of the teacher quality funds, which was a piece of that was listed. So professional development will still be divided and provided for our staff. It just will be based on those needs of the building, et cetera. So we will be moving forward. It's just how we're offering it that.
Because for a long time, we did what we went through AEA, right? And so this is just kind of bringing this stuff in-house.
Yes, some of those services in-house and utilizing some of that AEA flow-through money to provide those services.
The deficit, the special ed deficit. So this is something that we could have had property tax paying for always, right? Like when you have the deficit because of special ed, if you let it go to deficit, but what we've been doing up until now is paying for it out of general fund. Is that right?
Yeah, yes.
And so now that the general fund is not where it needs to be because of all the stuff that Jared and Lila already went through, we have to pay it somehow, right? And the state has always kind of said it's up to districts to figure out either to pay it from your general fund or to...
We're talking about all general fund dollars, so there's categorical funding within the general fund, special ed resources being part of that.
Okay.
So before the deficit, or some special ed expenditures were being coded to like regular ed expenditures, still all within the general fund. But now we're talking about just a limited regular instruction type funds. So that's where, again, the philosophy is to still code. We need to code everything that is special ed to special ed. We will have a deficit, and then we can again request the authority for that, and then again the board can decide whether or not to backfill that with actual property tax dollars. And I think maybe they have in the past gone for the authority, is what I'm hearing from Jesse, but never really chose to backfill it with property taxes.
And the general fund, life has been so different. The general fund looked different at that time.
That's a really good point, though, Stacy, is what you did not see up there was, for reductions, anything special ed related or anything ELL related.
Right.
Because we feel like we can use that other source of funding to get those. So that's one important thing that I think that's really good timing to share that.
Finally, this is the last thing. So just because we no longer have Gina's title, Director of Equity, Inclusion, Belonging, does that mean we're no longer going to do that kind of work in our district?
That's we're navigating that question right now, right? Like we're learning day by day what you can and can't do. It's really tricky. We're still going to do what we can to best meet the needs of our students. We've got a majority minority district, right? So we're going to make sure that we continue while also following the guidelines that are placed in front of us. Quite honestly, Stacy, good question. A lot of questions we're going right to legal counsel with at this point, saying, hey, what can we do? What can't we do? And I hear, great comments from the community earlier. I understand why our community is frustrated. I do.
Because I am too. You are.
Yep. And I understand. We all are. We are very frustrated. And I'm not saying that the decisions are right or wrong. It's just, it's hard for us giving the timing to respond appropriately because it's so new. We had 2 weeks to figure it out. Right. And so, but your question about with Gina being gone, that position, we still know we have staff and students to meet their needs. And we feel very good after talking with Shar about what she could potentially do in that role and Sam, under Sam's guidance. We still feel very good about meeting the needs of our staff and students, especially those of underrepresented populations.
And we've had some discussions too, just about what it'll look like in the buildings, because we have affinity groups now. We have the advocate in each building. So there's lots of things that are still happening, correct? And so that'll keep going. As far as having to raise the property tax and let people go, I'm very conflicted in that. personally, for me, it was kind of one or the other. Like, I can get behind raising the property tax as much as that sucks, but as long as we weren't going to lose people. But I think that one of the things that you guys have really made apparent and clear is that a lot of these will be through attrition. Is that what, I mean, a lot, as much as we can.
As much as absolutely. Every time a position comes open, we basically put a hiring freeze out there, right? I mean, for the most part, there's some that we filled that we like absolutely had to, maybe like elementary classroom teachers. But when positions have come up, we have vetted them and made sure that we absolutely need them. And that's, I mean, Sam, you can talk about that if you want.
Yep. So going up until this point, we have not, have not done a whole bunch of postings for positions we know that are coming, whether it's the early retirement, because as we are going through any of these position reductions, we want to make sure that if somebody's not fulfilling the same role, they may have an opportunity to fill another role in the district as well. So while we may be...
Will you say that real loud again, that part, what you just said? Because that's what I want people to hear.
So if we are going through position reductions, our goal is to have that person, if they're not returning to the same position, fill another position in the district that they are endorsed to fill.
So it's not so much we're going to fire 20 middle school teachers. It's we're not going to hire for some positions that won't exist anymore, and we will move people as necessary. Am I kind of covering that?
That is the goal,
okay?
as best as possible.
Okay. Yes. All right. I'll let you. I'll be done. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. No, if you have more, this is important. Anybody else?
I got a comment. Definitely, this whole process has been real hard for everyone. Sometimes you got to make decisions, and my hat goes off to all the members that have been associated with this. I want to mention, as we're doing these things, we're putting a lot of stress, question things about accountability, more money from the taxpayer. I'm just going to put it out there. As a board member, I ran because I wanted the reading level and, writing. I wish we'd get back to writing, but that's another issue. To go up. And we're putting a lot of stress on our community. And we have to keep in a couple things in mind. Our teachers are going through a lot of mental health. So I know we're cutting. We got to make sure we got to have our teachers back when it comes to mental health as we go through this, as we're dealing with less numbers. The other thing of it is, we as a district need to become more accountable with our school improvement. I mean, we're asking the community to do this. Well, we got to do everything we can to make sure we're ensuring test scores and everything else. I said this before. I'm tired of helping out students how to spell their middle school. So I'm not refuting anything about the cuts. I just want to be a reminder for the rubber to hit the road, it's going to be more responsibility, more communication of making sure we're executing. And that execution doesn't need to be reprimand. That execution needs to be, we all are in this together. We're all. And so as we kind of go through this, because I'm conflicted,
I have to speak up for the teachers and the community out there that, you know, they're shaking their head. And I once again, I'm not refuting of saying we should do this, should do that. No. We are where we are. So we got to do what we got to do. But that does not put us off the hook as a district of doing the best for our kids. Our test scores need to go up. Period. We want better individuals in this community, and I think providing the career center and all those kind of things, we got it. But we definitely at the lower levels have to be able to give that foundation for the kids to be able to take advantage of it later in life. That's one of the challenges, I think, as we're doing the reduction and doing cuts and adding tax rate and everything. We got to make sure on our end that our communication on how it's a team effort. If one of us win, all of us win. It can't be all second grade won, third grade loss. We have to be a team. And so I just want to put that in perspective as my heart goes out to the individuals. My heart goes out to the team that you guys had to make decisions. You just wasn't sitting there just names in you wasn't pulling names. It's hard. So I just want to, I'm not trying to bring, I'm bringing another perspective to make sure we do not ignore as we're going through this process, because we're tired. You guys have been putting in a lot of hours, but we gotta make sure we're doing right by our students. We're doing right by this community. And if any time for us to do right by this community, it is now. Right now. You know, and the other thing of it is, you know, I'm going to put something out there for the community. As I'm here on the board and I'm going to do everything, but we as a team are going to do better. The community has to do better also. They have to do better on the simple fact of making sure it's a high percentage of parent conferences. We're all in this together. And I think too many times we want to point fingers, and we got to quit pointing fingers, because at the end of the day, guess what? It's about my granddaughter. It's about my grandson. So I just want to put a little bit of realistic, no, first of all, the cuts are real. I'm just adding another perspective, that's all. So I just want to just kind of mention that, you know, we have to do what we have to do. I'm conflicted, as you know, but let's don't lose sight of what we're asking the community to do. And we're going to say we can't have excuses. We got to get it done as a team, not individuals.
Nice. Oh, okay. Deserves a hand clap. So I promise mine won't be as long or as eloquent. But this is tough. I will use some more colorful words, but I won't. So during this process, the one thing, or the couple of things that I'm appreciative of, I'm appreciative of the work that was put into this. I didn't know what to expect when I first seen it. You know, just hearing and knowing that this was about to come about. I didn't know what to expect. Of course, I'm a taxpayer. I'm a citizen. I'm a parent, a lifelong resident of this community. So as you all feel this, I feel it, and we all feel it. So I didn't know what to expect, and you know, when you hear cuts and layoffs and tax rates and those terms aren't usually met with any type of positivity, and to see the input, to see you know, the process that it took to get to where Dr. Smith and his team came up with this. I do want to give a huge shout out to the WEA and the WESP for your work. I'm appreciative of the collaboration of the DOT, or Dr. Smith, the DOT, and the unions to coming together. We're, you know, they're talking about their colleagues. They're talking about people that they've worked with for years, and programs that they're passionate about, and things that they know have supported and helped students and families along this journey. So I'm appreciative of one, the collaboration of working together. And then I had an opportunity to talk to Jody, and the first thing she said to me, she was like, Astor, this sucks. She said, but our thought with her team and the union was having a student focus. Having a student focus. And I've said it before, that's why we're here. No disrespect to, you know, any of these adults in these professional positions, but I'm fighting for the youth. I'm fighting for the youth. You know, and things that we can put in place to benefit them so that they can be productive members of the society, is one of our mottos. So happy for the collaboration. I don't feel good about this. I wish we weren't in this position, but I think this was laid out better than I expected it would be. I think a lot of the questions that I had initially going in were answered. The opportunities to have the dialogue and to ask the questions, you know, when we received information, and then now I'm appreciative to the people that came and spoke to the board. You know, it just shows that you're invested as well, and you should be, because this is your community. This board has had to make some tough decisions more recently that and I've been on the board, this is my 7th year, going into my 8th year. In the last year and a half, we've had to make some tough decisions regarding the students of our district and the communities and families of the community. Continue to have trust in us. That's my plea to the community. We're trying to get it right. We're trying to get it right. This doesn't feel well, but I think how this was laid out, you know, the necessity in it of where we are now as a country, as a state, as a community, and as a school district, has been shown through this presentation and through some of the conversation and some of the questions and answers. So, to my running mate that always keeps us on our toes and goes above and beyond to get information to us and ask those tough questions. I'm appreciative of still learning in this seat and to be able to walk beside each one of you. So I told you mine wouldn't be that long, and it wasn't as elegant as the others, but yeah, see, she never times me because I'm always short-winded. But this is difficult. This is difficult. So I'm siding with my board members. So that's all I have. We don't need a roll call, do we? All right. Are there any more questions or comments regarding this? So all those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation of the 3-year budget plan, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oppose.
Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Okay. All right. Moving along in the agenda. The next item on our agenda is board policy changes, second reading. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the Board of Education approve the following policies: limitations to employment references, objectives of buildings and sites, building and sites long-range planning, buildings and sites surveys, site acquisition, requests for improvements, emergency repairs, buildings and site adaptation for persons with disabilities and asbestos-containing material. This is the second reading, so I'll read the numbers. Number 401.06, limitations to employment references. Number 800, objectives of buildings and sites. 801-01, buildings and sites long-range planning. 801.02, buildings and site surveys. 801.04, site acquisition. 802.02, request for improvements. 802.03, emergency repairs, recodification only. 802.05, buildings and sites adaptations for persons with disabilities. Number 804.04, asbestos containing material. Can I get a motion to put that on the table?
So moved.
Second.
So if there's any questions, Pam is here to answer any questions. We have a couple people from the Policy Review Committee as well.
So just a general comment too, you'll recall when these came for first reading, Director Mills had raised a question about a couple policies that were previously on there for first reading. We did take those back to policy review. You'll be seeing those come before you at the next board meeting for first reading. So made a few adjustments based on some DEI legislation. So those again will be coming back for first reading. But any questions on these, I'd be happy to answer.
Going twice. Seeing no questions, I think we're ready to vote. So all those in favor.
Good grief.
Excuse me. All those in favor of approving the superintendent's recommendation state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye, motion carried. That ends our action items for the evening, and now on to our superintendent's report.
I spoke quite a bit, so I'll be quick here, but just to let the board know, we do appreciate the comments from a few community members about the questions and concerns around DEI. We do have a meeting set up. I was going to let you know. It's a roundtable discussion with a number of community leaders, myself, Gina, Amy, Emily, Jen, a number of our district leadership team will be meeting with them on Tuesday, March 25th from 4:30 to 6. So we do have a meeting lined up to kind of talk through some of the questions, concerns, and so just want to let you know about that.
That's it? Wow.
That's it.
Thanks, Dr. Smith. I didn't even get my...
I can keep going if you want.
No, we're good. All right. Tonight we'll start with Dr. Matlock for board comments. Or excuse me, Director Matlock. Did I say doctor? Director.
Okay, thank you so much for everyone that came. I wish more people would come to our meetings because sometimes we're in here talking to like one or two people. So thank you so much for coming out tonight. But I do have a few, just a couple of things I want to, and I'll write down my stuff. So budget conversations are difficult, especially when they directly impact our schools and our community. This one feels especially personal as my household potentially could be affected by this. I understand that cuts needed to be made, but the biggest concern is how we will fill in the gaps to ensure our students, staff, and families continue to have the support they need. I recognize the weight of these choices, and while they are never easy, I'm committed to navigating with care, transparency, and a focus on what's best for our district. As one of 7 board members, I take it seriously our responsibility to ensure the district makes fiscally sound decisions. Part of the responsibility is recognizing that some things may not have been done as well as they could have been in the past. But as we learn and we gain better understanding, we have an obligation to do better. As I continue to familiarize myself with the budget, I'm committed to understanding the complexities of it, asking the right questions, and making tough decisions with care and thoughtfulness. While I love the celebrating and the success of our districts, I also recognize that budgeting requires difficult choices. Change is hard, but we will get through this together. I will do my best to ensure that we make wise, informed decisions that prioritize students, staff, and the long-term success of our students. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Director Matlock. That was close. Charge it to my head. Director Mills.
I wanted to say before, if I could have caught that if anyone wanted to stay after, that I am an ear. If you'd like to talk at me or talk with me afterward, that I'll stay after as long as I need to. I wanted to thank everybody who came, for all the people. I'm sorry, I have a lifesaver in my mouth. All the people who spoke. I know it's hard to get up here and to speak. And please know that we listen. Same with emails, phone calls we get, all of that. And yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Director Mills. Director Cox.
I have none.
Okay. Thank you, Director Cox. Director Knight.
No further comments tonight.
All right. Thank you, Director Knight. Director Ewing.
I think the approach that we took tonight, or that the approach that the DLT and everyone has taken of protecting the frontline workers who are with students is the right choice. Teachers are what run a school district. Without proper teachers and talented teachers, nothing happens for the students. No matter how well the curriculum is written, no matter how good the books are, it's the teachers that make the difference. So that was the right approach. I'd like to address a little bit about the recent Supreme Court case that just came out, a couple of comments on that. An appeal is always asking a higher court, did the lower court get it right? So nothing in an appeal is going to be new or different. You can't add new facts, you can't add new evidence, you can't add new anything except look at some other cases that have come before us and make some quotes about those cases and some arguments. So that's why it seems that nothing was really new in the appeal. The Supreme Court will never take a case that just affects two parties to a case. They will never take a case that just affects A and B, us versus the insurance company. The cases that they take, they always want to make new law on. They always want to do something that's going to affect the widest amount of people by making law on a case. So the case that the reason the Supreme Court took this case was not because it was really interested in whether Waterloo is going to get insurance money from an insurance company. They wanted to solidify the law on insurance contracts. And the reason that the Supreme Court took this case was because they felt that if we were able to get all the money that we asked for, that all insurance contracts all across the state would become maintenance contracts, meaning that insurance companies would have to pay for what they felt, in the Supreme Court's opinion, was maintenance, and they felt that that might bankrupt insurance companies. So that's the reason that they took this case. We unfortunately are in a position where we can't get all the money that we wanted to get, but always ask for more. Always ask for the full kit and caboodle, and I think that the district was right to do that, even though we didn't get what we asked for. So I just wanted, there were some comments about that case today, and I just wanted to clarify some of that. So thank you, everybody, for everything that you've done on this budget, and thank you to everybody who is here, because yes, the more people that are here, the more people care about our students and our community, and thank you so much for being here.
I love her lawyer stuff.
Yeah, that was timely. Thank you, Director Ewing. Director Schmidt.
Yeah, just three quick items. Thanks to all the comments, both public and verbal and written. Number two, congratulations to the robotics team and good luck with their next contest. Number three, I wasn't able to make it, but our FFA chapter entertained 1,000 students Saturday at the Career Center for the FFA regional meeting. So,
Was that like from the state?
no, just the region, I think. And then, yeah, that's it. Other than, was the award, is that new money or is that money we were already paid?
That was already what they already had awarded us, right? Well, we hadn't been paid it yet.
For what?
The 1.71. Lowell.
New money. I'm gonna forward you guys the form.
All right.
My apologies.
All right. That's it.
Thank you, Director Schmidt. I just have a couple of things. I know in the last couple of board meetings, there's been some conversation about the read-in that our district didn't participate in. And there was some conversation. I wish Director Gina was here to speak on it a little bit, but I'll try to speak on it just briefly. I know there's an event this Saturday at West High School that will be similar, but a little different, with some well-known authors from around the country that'll be here to participate in a read-in. And I believe it starts at 11 a.m. And I believe it's a free event, but I believe you have to RSVP. Correct? So I believe you have to RSVP, but it's free to the public. There'll be book giveaways and different things for the community. Different community partners are collaborating together. So that'll be at West High on Saturday, March 15th from 11 to 1 p.m. And it's an actual read-in with free books for the entire family.
Who's that through?
1619.
Okay.
1619 Freedom School.
Okay.
So if you go to their website or I believe their Facebook, there's a link, and I can probably get that to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Share it out,
Thank you.
because I know you have to RSVP,
Okay.
just so they can get a number. But free books for the entire family, and some well-known artists or authors from around the country will be participating in that. So it should be a well-represented event. So also, I did want to add, thanks, Pam. You're just right on the spot always. Acknowledge the passing of one of our longtime administrators and community activists and advocates for everything Waterloo, and one of the shining lights of so many that had an opportunity to be a part of our district for years. Oh yeah. Literally shining. If you ever seen his wardrobe,
there's a great video out there showing.
Yeah.
That,
And I have a lot of personal stories with Mr. Allen. I never experienced him as an administrator or in a building that I was in.
I had him. He was awesome.
Yeah, I can imagine. But I have other stories. And I know since I've been on the board, he was responsible for a lot of the initiatives and things involving safety for our district. He was a direct cog in getting a lot of those things done. Just off of God, he had a way of saying something to you, and you kind of needed to make sure it got done. I don't know if it was that administrative fear, but he didn't say much to you that you didn't, make an effort and to get it done fast. So I do want to say to his family, we and the community, we definitely lost an awesome man, but he left a lot. He left a legacy, a huge legacy, with some of the individuals, like Director Mills said. He had her with the people that are represented here, and a long-lasting legacy within the Waterloo Community Schools and beyond. He's well known throughout the country. Just an upstanding, all-around great guy. So we're going to miss his physical presence, but the gifts he left to our community will last on, and it's our duty and our job to take those things that we learned from that great man and thrust them and give those gems to the next generation as well, of those coming behind us. I think those were the only two things that I had. Spring break starts next week. No school on the week of March 17th through the 21st. Remember, the next time we'll be in this boardroom, 5 p.m. for the special meeting of the public hearing. And then at 5:30 p.m., we would have our regularly scheduled board meeting 30 minutes late. So get here early, 5 p.m. But if you get here at 5:30, you won't miss or close to 5:30 p.m., you shouldn't miss too much of the regularly scheduled board meeting. So with that being said, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes
Maybe I
aye.
should oppose.
We're adjourned.